Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto trained himself instead of wasting time with Jiraiya? Part 5. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button, check description and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Forests of Fire Country. At a random location, near an equally random tree, a scroll, as if by magic, appeared out of nowhere in the air, the ceiling matrix on the scroll glowing briefly before. With a large puff of smoke, 3 figures appeared out of the scroll, one a tall, muscular, spiky blonde-haired individual wearing a Konoha Jonin uniform, the other a woman with beautiful red hair and a black tunic tied at the waist with a red sash, along with black shorts and black sandals, and last but not least, a green-haired beauty with orange eyes and a slim but sexy figure. Is this for real? Has the original dipshit actually summoned us? The redhead asked in disbelief. He indeed has, to Yuya-chan, which means I should be receiving memory feedback any time now. The blonde-haired male individual replied calmly. I wonder what happened. Where even are we, Naruto-kun? The green-haired beauty asked curiously. I just received the memory feedback. Listen carefully, Fu-chan, to Yuya-chan. The Kazekage, Sabaku no Garadono, has been kidnapped by Akatsuki. The boss has been prohibited from leaving the village by Godime-sama. The boss activated the ceiling scroll in which we were stored and teleported the scroll to this location, in Fire Country, that he marked with the Hiraishin no Jutsu. That is why we appeared here. Naruto explained. I see. So the original dipshit wants us reinforced shadow clones to go and save Lord Kazekage from Akatsuki while the original versions of ourselves stay in Konoha and follow Godime-sama's instructions, huh? It's an interesting plan, it quite clearly exploits a loophole in the instructions. Yuya said with a serious undertone, not swearing or cursing at all, which was a clear indicator of how seriously she was taking the situation. That is incorrect. We're going to use the Hiraishin substitution technique to switch places with the originals. The boss is not taking Akatsuki lightly enough to leave such an important task to mere shadow clones, reinforced or not. So with that said, both of you create shadow clones and dispel them so that the original versions of you can get the memory feedback. When they are ready to switch, they will use the same method to let us know. Naruto commanded, the 2 girls nodding their heads in the affirmative as they did as instructed. It seems I'll be fighting the new team Kakashi in the boss's stead. I better make sure not to be defeated. It will be weird if I suddenly poof out of existence. Clone Naruto thought amusedly. Short while later. Konoha. Good. The others are nowhere near catching up to me, which means they didn't see the boss and I switch places. Kakashi is the fastest out of them, but even he couldn't close the gap, and even if he had been able to, the Hiraishin substitution happens in an instant. He probably would have been hard-pressed to see it even with his Sharingan. Clone Naruto thought as he stopped at a clearing, deciding to wait for the others to catch up to him so that he could get the show on the road. Running away forever kind of defeats the purpose of the test, I suppose. Time to whoop some, Naruto thought as he waited for the others to arrive. Quote. There is no point in hiding. I know you're out there. You probably don't know this since my sensory skills were underdeveloped due to lack of training before I left the village, but I'm a sensory type, the best there is. My sense of smell is better than the Inuzuka clan, my hearing is the best that I know of, and my chakra sensory perception, without exaggeration, is likely the best in the entire shinobi world. I know your exact positions. This is one of the rare cases where following the shinobi code will be to your detriment. Naruto said out loud for the benefit of his opponents, and in order not to waste time because he didn't want to wait here all day for them to come up with some type of strategy that ultimately, in all likelihood, would not amount to anything, disappointed however when there was no change in the actions of his opponents as they continued to conceal themselves, seemingly waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. I suppose it doesn't make sense for them to just simply take my word for it, after all, for all they know, I could just be bluffing. From their perspective, they are probably asking themselves why someone would intentionally throw away an advantage by revealing previously unknown information about themselves. Naruto thought as he patiently waited for his opponents to make a move. Surprised by how long he actually had to wait, as it took a whole 10 minutes of just standing there like an idiot before his opponents made their move. Two hands coming of the ground from underneath his feet in order to grab onto his ankles and pull him underground, hands that Naruto recognized as Kakashi's, because they could only belong to him, and because he had actually sensed the chakra signature of Kakashi, or rather the chakra signature of Kakashi's shadow clone moving towards him from beneath the surface. Earth style. Double suicide decapitation tech. The clone trailed off as it was instantaneously vanquished, Naruto stabbing his Hiraishin no Ken down into the earth at roughly the same time as the clone ejected its hands out of the ground, stabbing right between its eyes and killing it in an instant, the clone disappearing in a puff of smoke. However, while the shadow clone was busy with its attack, the real Kakashi had already been preparing his next move as he came out of the clearing and began hand seals for his attack, the last one being a snake hand seal. Earth release. Bottomless mud hole. Kakashi said as he put his hands on the ground, causing the entire surface around Naruto to turn into mud that sank him down to the bottom and drowned him. At least that's what would have happened had Naruto not channeled the lightning oscillations of the Hiraishin no Ken into the surface, made easier by the fact that he had already stabbed the sword into the earth when he killed Kakashi's shadow clone, lightning chakra spreading across the surface and thereby canceling the mud hole before it could take effect, earth style being weak against lightning style and all. However, it seemed that that was not the extent of Kakashi's plan, as from the moment that Kakashi's clone attacked, so had not only the original Kakashi began his attack, but also Sakura as she had jumped high into the air so that she can attack from above. Naruto, realizing that the fact that Kakashi had attacked using Earth style and those two jutsu in particular had been because he wanted to focus Naruto's attention downwards so that he wouldn't see Sakura coming from above until it was too late. However, being a sensory type, Naruto had, of course, sensed her from the moment she made her move, and before even that, thereby easily jumping out of the way just in the nick of time, Sakura missing with an overhead kick completely and hitting the surface, causing a massive explosion as the terrain was affected and completely changed by the impact, as if a powerful earthquake was hitting the training ground. Damn, I wasn't sure if she could actually master Tsunade Ba-chan's super strength technique, seeing as Shizune-chan doesn't seem to have been able to, but I sure am glad I played it safe. Naruto thought, who was not in fact safe at all, as Anko, from up on a tree, launched her own attack on Naruto, using the hidden shadow snake hands technique and summoning dozens of large snakes from both the sleeves of her trench coat, sending the serpents at Naruto at incredible speeds. Ah, I see. Getting me airborne was the fourth phase of the plan so that I couldn't dodge the snakes. Yeah, this whole plan is too perfect for anyone other than Kakashi-sensei to have come up with it. Naruto thought, far too calmly for someone in his situation. Secret technique. Flash sword technique. Naruto said as he did the unthinkable, slicing every single one of Anko's snakes seemingly without moving his arm at all anyone able to see being the after images of his sword flashing as the snake summons were completely annihilated. However, Sakura, as surprised as she was by what she just saw, did not let up and slow down at all as she continued to play her part in the next phase of the plan, which was to catch Naruto on the landing because, with him putting a no-flying restriction on himself for the contest, he would not be able to evade her unless he decided to break his own restriction, which of course would qualify as an automatic loss for him. Damn that Kakashi-sensei. He's too good. I guess this is the value of experience and being trained by the Yondaime Hokage himself. Naruto thought, however, not about to lose the contest at all as he put his sword back on its place on his back, much to the confusion of everyone. What is he doing? Is he giving up? Kakashi thought with confusion, his thoughts echoed by Anko too, who totally didn't understand what was happening. However, they would soon be even more surprised than they were as a cloak of golden yellow lightning chakra formed around Naruto, a cloak very similar to the one he used as a Jinchuriki, even possessing the shape of a fox and all 9 of its tails, except made entirely of the Hiraishin no Ken's lightning chakra. Even more surprising was what happened next. Naruto catching Sakura's full-powered right hook in the palm of his left hand, stopping her momentum completely, a powerful shockwave washing over the battleground as trees were toppled over and the landscape was reformed again, a large crater forming around both Naruto and Sakura's feet as a result. To say Sakura was shocked would be an understatement, not to mention both Kakashi and Anko similarly frozen in surprise by the ridiculous strength feat of, well, both of the younger generation shinobi, but more so Naruto than Sakura because, being Godime-sama's apprentice, they sort of expected this kind of feat from Sakura. Impossible. Sakura trailed off in surprise, unable to believe that Naruto had successfully nullified her trump card so easily, especially because he didn't even use his Rasen Chakra no Yoroi technique, which of course, was supposed to be restricted. Impossible. You still don't know who you're dealing with, do you? Well, let me show you. Naruto said as, much faster than Sakura could comprehend, Naruto punched her in the abdomen so hard that her body and her mind simply shut down completely in order to protect her from the pain and agony, another shockwave reverberating across the battlefield as Sakura's body reflexively curled around Naruto's fist before she fell face first on the ground, after which Naruto grabbed her by the collar and threw her at Kakashi's feet. 1 down, 2 more to go. Naruto said gravely. Quote, you cheated, Naruto. You said you wouldn't use any ninjutsu. Kakashi said, eyes narrowing at the blonde Uzumaki. Trying to buy time, are we? You forget how well I know you, Kakashi-sensei. Very few people in the ninja world pay more attention to detail than you. I specifically said that I would not use taijutsu and kenjutsu, but I also said that I would use the abilities of my sword. This Hiraishin chakra cloak is one of the abilities of my word. Naruto said with a devilish smirk before turning his sights on Mitarashi Anko, who was standing on a tree on the far right of Kakashi. However, Anko, quickly realizing what was about to happen, disappeared in a puff of smoke, revealing that she was in fact a shadow clone, the original jumping out from behind Kakashi, already at the end of her hand seals as she bit her finger and put her hands on the ground, releasing an exorbitant amount of chakra as she summoned a gigantic boss-level snake summon, a large purple one that Naruto easily recognized as Manda. That was unexpected. However, her chakra is dangerously low. It took everything she had just to summon this dude. Has she gone mad? All this just to win a sparring match? All this for a chance at a victory she might not even see? Naruto thought because he knew that if chakra exhaustion didn't kill her, then Manda's digestive enzymes surely would, because that guy, for a summon, sure did not like being summoned as far as Naruto was aware, and when he was summoned, he would demand 100 human sacrifices as payment, at least that was what Naruto remembered him asking Orochimaru for when he, Jiraiya, and Tsunade battled against Orochimaru and Kabuto. Orochimaru. You better have fixed your arms. I won't be summoned by a weak, useless piece of, is that the QB brat? I remember you, you little piece of shit. You're a toad summoner, I can smell the toad on you. Never mind the payment, Orikima, what? Impossible. Where did a measly ant like you get the chakra to summon me? Manda trailed off as Anko fell off from his head, shocked to the core by what he was seeing as he was unable to believe that not only had Anko had the chakra to summon him without killing herself in the process, but also because of the fact that she even had the guts to attempt to summon him. Nevertheless, Manda didn't dwell too much on the matter because the solution was simple enough. Eat the stupid little ant that dared to summon him as payment for her disrespect and stupidity, and then proceed to take care of the QB brat at his own leisure. But, as good, albeit evil a plan as it was, it did not quite go as planned because his meal was taken right from under him by a silver-haired Jonin, one that Manda was able to recognize easily as he knew him as the student of the deceased Toad Summoner, the Yondaime Hokage Namikaze Minato. Another insect getting in my way. Manda hissed angrily, trying to decide whether he should go after the silver-haired Jonin or stay and kill the QB brat. Ultimately, his hate for the QB brat winning out as he decided that he could always deal with the silver-haired Jonin later. He had his shadow clone take Sakura and run while he went to save Anko. Such a quick thinker. Naruto thought as he made eye contact with Manda, sensing nothing but malice and rage from the gigantic snake, malice and rage that was completely focused on him. Manda dono. It's been a while. Naruto greeted politely. You're a lot more respectful than I remember. Of course, you're also going to be a lot more dead soon. Manda said as he licked his mouth with that ridiculously long tongue of his. So, are you saying there is no way I can talk you out of this? Naruto asked with a heavy sigh. Ahahahahaha. You're also a lot more foolish than I remember you to be. I didn't even believe it was possible for you to be even more of an idiot. Shame on me. Manda trailed off dangerously, Naruto getting the sense that Manda was going to pounce on him any second now as the level of malice coming from him spiked exponentially, Naruto closing his eyes as he adopted a prayer-like stance, his hands clasped together in front of him. Hiraishin Secret Art. Type 1. 100 Swords Buddha Statue. Naruto said as the chakra cloak around him morphed and grew exponentially, turning into a gigantic Buddha statue made of golden yellow lightning chakra, a statue that was significantly bigger than even Manda, the statue possessing 100 sword-wielding hands, hands that were all ready to slaughter the gigantic snake serpent, Naruto in the safety of the Buddha statue as his entire body was submerged in the Buddha's forehead inside what appeared to be a triangular chakra pendant. What the hell is this? Where is he getting so much chakra? Is it from him? Is it from the sword? Manda pondered, sweating nervously as he began to wonder whether he should carry on with this battle or not. Manda dono. Naruto trailed off, Manda looking at Naruto warily as he waited with bated breath for what the blonde Uzumaki was about to say. Quote. Attack me if you dare, little ant, Naruto said with a condescending tone, Manda's eyes widening in surprise before he went batshit crazy, completely losing his mind as his rage overcame his better senses, the purple serpent attacking Naruto at a much greater speed than Naruto expected, and with much better tactics than Naruto anticipated as Manda used Earth style to go underground and came out from behind Naruto. Type 2. Asura. Naruto whispered as 3 extra faces grew on the Buddha statue, one on each side of the head and one at the back, Manda surprised to come face to face with the Buddha statue, having thought that he had managed to make it to its blind spot. As a result, Manda tried to halt his advance, but it was too little too late as he got sliced into pieces by the super sharp and super fast sword hands of the Hiraishin Buddha. However, just in the nick of time, Manda managed to reverse summon himself, his experience coming to the fore as he barely avoided any fatal damage. That wasn't as hard as I had imagined it would be, but then again, as strong and as fast as Manda is, his inability to carry or use weapons is a Maho weakness compared to the sword-wielding toads of MT. Myobuko. Naruto thought, focusing his attention ahead as he thought about whether he should continue the battle or call an end to it. Manda and the Buddha statue are too big. The whole village saw that. I can sense Tsunade Ba-chan and her Anbu elite heading this way. This little test is over, and I suspect Anko-san will be in a lot of trouble. What the hell was she even thinking summoning Manda? That guy is so evil he would have gone on a feeding free all across Konoha if Jay didn't stop him, not even for nourishment but just for the fun of it. Naruto thought, hoping to get a good explanation out of Anko when she recovers. Meanwhile, Land of Rivers. The barrier has fallen. This was a miscalculation on my part. We should not have chosen to seal the Biju so close to Wind Country. Or perhaps I should start thinking about creating a jutsu that will enable us to seal the Biju at a much faster rate. A disjointed voice said, a voice belonging to a holographic figure that has spiky hair and weird-looking eyes with concentric rings around them. Che. Some leader you are. What a monumental blunder. I thought your barrier was supposed to create real clones of the people trying to break the barrier and fight them. How do people defeat themselves in battle? It's supposed to be the ultimate stalemate. Are you even a real god, huh? Another disjointed voice said angrily, one belonging to a holographic figure with slicked back hair, who seemed to be carrying a very large scythe on his back. Shut up, imbecile. This is the one person who can actually kill you. Don't think for 1 second I'll help you if you piss off leader. Another one spoke up, chastising his partner, this one being a rather tall man with a mask that covers his entire face except for piercing eyes, seemingly not carrying any weapons on his person. Uzumaki Naruto is a smart one. He and his lady friends used clones to remove the barrier markers. Therefore, the replicas created upon removal of the markers were only as strong as the clones and not the originals. It is the jutsu's only weak point. The man, now identified simply as leader, replied calmly, as if their plans were not under any threat whatsoever. So, what do we do now, leader? We're still a whole day away from completely sealing away the one tail. Our enemies will arrive any second now. A hunchbacked man with a deep, gravel voice, namely, Sasori of the Red Sands, asked, a man wearing the traditional black Akatsuki cloak with red clouds on it, spotting only 3 locks of hair on his head and wearing a desert scarf to cover the lower half of his face. Defeat the interlopers and then come home. We'll complete the sealing ceremony in my sanctuary. Leader replied, much to everyone's surprise as he very rarely invited members to come home, home being a code word for a Megakure no Sato, which was of course, was leader's birthplace and the place of his base of operations. It was said that the Uzumaki brat travels with another Jinchuriki, the Seven Tails, HN. Taking on 2 Jinchuriki might pose a problem even for us, HN. Deidara said warily, a young man with long blonde hair styled in a ponytail and a band of her covering one side of his face, a man of around 19 years old give or take. He was also wearing the full Akatsuki uniform, missing one sleeve of course as he had lost his left hand in his battle with the Kazekage. We cannot risk you being followed to our sanctuary. You must make sure you are not followed, and the only way to do that is to defeat the enemy. Also, this time, try to use the skies. You both have the ability to fly. Use it so that no one is able to track you down. Leader ordered. As a former ninja of Takigakure, I can say with certainty that the Nanabi Jinchuriki can fly. And if I'm not mistaken, Zetsu reported that the Kyubi Jinchuriki briefly displayed the ability fly in his fight against the Raikage. We have to assume that they will be able to follow you even if you use the skies. Therefore, it is essential that you incapacitate or even capture the Nibi and the Kyubi before you head out, or they'll just follow you. Another holographic man replied, the one who previously chastised his partner for instigating hostilities with leader, a man known as Kakuzu. Kisame, Itachi, I believe you are the closest team to Sasori and Hidan. Head out to them as fast as you can. This will be a difficult battle even for them. Go, now, and provide backup for them. Dismissed. The man identified as leader instructed before cancelling his holograph technique, just in time too as the interlopers made their appearance literally seconds afterwards. Interesting. I could have sworn I heard voices coming from here. Sense their chakra too, but there's only 2 people here. What do you think, cheese? Teleportation? Tayuya asked with both curiosity and confusion. Who can say for sure? The important thing is that Kazekage-sama is still alive, and his Biju is still inside of him, albeit they both seem extremely weakened. In fact, I can't even believe Kazekage-sama is alive at all in his condition, he must be keeping himself alive with sheer willpower alone. Naruto said observantly, doing extremely well to curb the anger that was bubbling inside of him at seeing what these Akatsuki fiends had done to his brother. However, he knew better than to let his emotions run amok. He may have not agreed with everything that Zabuza believed in, but after having spent the last 3 years repeatedly reading the man's journal, Naruto had come to appreciate and even adopt some of the man's philosophies. Just because the man was an extremist, didn't mean there wasn't some truth and merit to his beliefs and philosophies. The ability to detach yourself from emotions is a vital skill for a shinobi, but what most shinobi don't realize is that there is a time for detaching emotions and a time to accept and even use emotions. Now was not the time to entertain any emotional sentiment. However, now was the time to be cerebral and practical, lest he put himself at a disadvantage against these extremely dangerous fiends. That must mean, deep down, he was still holding on to the hope that he can survive, that someone would come for him and rescue him in the same way that he saved his village. Fu said with a grave undertone, an unfamiliar demeanor for the usually exuberant and energetic Kunoichi. Well, will you look at this, Sasori no Dana, we're totally being ignored here, HN. Even at the brink of death, this little one-tail brat is still hogging all of the attention for himself, HN. Is he just that much more popular than us, or are these Konoha brats underestimating us? Maybe if I show them how amazing my art is, they'll show us a little more appreciation, HN. One of the Akatsuki duo said, the one with the long blonde hair styled in a ponytail, wearing the traditional Akatsuki uniform, complete with a long black turtleneck cloak with red clouds on it, blue ninja pants, white leg warmers, and blue ninja sandals. You seem to be on the young side, not something I expected for an Akatsuki member. But then again, Kakashi-sensei once told me that there are shinobi younger than me but stronger than him in the shinobi world. Akatsuki took quite a risk in recruiting you though. After all, inexperience and youthful ignorance does tend to rear its head sometimes, like for instance how you let Kazekage-sama take your arm away from you. Naruto said with a condescending undertone, causing a scowl to appear on the blonde-haired S-rank criminal. The hell you on about? I'm fucking older than you, Kyubi no Gaki, HN. And I have way more experience than you, HN. Deidara retorted heatedly. Then why did you allow my words to distract you enough to let Kazekage-sama slip from right under your fingers? Naruto added, causing an even more confused expression to appear on the S-rank ninja, opening his mouth to mount a scathing retort but getting cut off before he could by a burst of chakra chains from underneath the ground, the chains however not targeting him but the clay bird that was flying close to him, the bird that was carrying the Lord Kazekage. Quicker than the Akatsuki duo could react, the bird was wrapped completely around in chains and pulled underground, only to appear across the cavern as the chains burst out from underground again next to Naruto, or rather next to Yuya. Yuya-chan, remove Kazekage-sama from the clutches of that abomination's talons so that I can heal him. Once that is done, escort him back to Sunagkur and fortify the village. Have your doki patrol the village and stick to Kazekage-sama like glue. Fu-chan and I will handle things here. Naruto instructed. Roger that. Yuya replied as she quickly tore the Kazekage out of the clay bird's talons and gently laid him down on the floor, Naruto releasing more chakra chains from his spine and having them wrap around the Kazekage so that he can transfer his healing chakra to Lord Kazekage. You lost the one-tailed Jinchuriki, Deidara. The other member of Akatsuki, the one named Sasori, said with a very calm tone, all things considered. The hell I did. I haven't lost anything, HN. Besides, even if I did, it would be we lost the Jinchuriki. You were here right next to me when he was taken, HN. The blonde-haired young man, now revealed to be Deidara, retorted. Whatever happens, next, be sure to avoid those chains. Those are the chakra chains of the Uzumaki clan, a bloodline ability of theirs. From what I can recall, those chains are indestructible, they can hold down and immobilize completely even a Biju. The Uzumaki clan also use them as a medium for their barrier and sealing jutsu. Those aren't just any regular chains. Sasori said with a grave undertone. Thanks for the warning, HN, but that wasn't necessary. I've already got the Kyubi and his friends in checkmate, because art is an explosion. Deidara exclaimed, holding his right hand up in a snake hand seal, a crazed look on his facial features, a look that quickly turned confused and sullen when absolutely nothing happened. Quote, quote. Katsu. Deidara tried again, putting more concentration and effort into activating his jutsu, anger and confusion now permanently settling into his face. Quote, quote. Oi, Kyubi no Gaki. What the hell is this? What did you do, damn it, HN? Deidara exclaimed petulantly. The chakra chains can subdue Biju not only because they are indestructible, but also because they can suppress and even absorb chakra. Ninjutsu is the application of chakra. If the chakra is absorbed or suppressed, there can be no ninjutsu. Your bird, as such, did not, and will not explode. I've already absorbed all of the chakra that you put into it. It is not more than a pile of bird-shaped clay now. Naruto replied in plain and simple language, buying time for the Kazekage to wake up and get back to his feet, which, of course, is what happened right after he finished talking. The Kazekage stirring as Tayuya helped him to get back on his feet, still, of course, wrapped in chains as Naruto, after healing him, began refilling the Kazekage's chakra reserves. Welcome back to the land of the living, Kazekage-sama. It's been a while since I last saw you. I haven't seen you since the Sasuke retrieval mission 3 years ago. I meant to visit you during my 3-year training trip, but a lot of things happened on the trip. Naruto replied without turning around to look at his brother, not willing to lose sight of the Akatsuki pair for even a split second. Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. Is it really you? You look different. Gaara said in disbelief, his voice even and flat like usual, although, if one paid enough attention and knew the Kazekage well enough like Naruto did, they could feel the heavy emotion in his tone. It's me, brother. Listen, we'll catch up later, okay? I've healed your injuries and refilled your chakra reserves. You should be able to protect yourself now. Naruto said as he released his chakra chain technique. However, Fu-chan and I will handle these two. Tayuya-chan, the one with the red hair standing next to you, will escort you back to Sunagaker. You're the Kazekage, your job is to protect and fortify your village. Besides, your people need a big win right now. I don't think anything is bigger than the miraculous return of their beloved Kazekage. And don't worry, Fu-chan and I can handle this, we'll definitely win. And you can trust Tayuya-chan, she's really strong. Believe in me, okay? Naruto said, knowing that Gaara's natural instinct would likely be to resist his request and choose to fight with him. You don't have to ask me to. I already believe in you. You're the reason I was able to become Kazekage, why would I doubt you now? Gaara replied matter-of-factly, internally surprised however by how big and tall Naruto had become, and of course, not missing the fact that Naruto was wearing a Jonin vest now, or the fact that he seemed to have picked up Kenjutsu if the skyscraper on his back was anything to go by. Good. I'll see you later then. Naruto deadpanned, Tayuya levitating herself as she used her sound release to induce flight. Kazekage-sama, we'll use the skies, okay? Tayuya said, Gaara's eyes widening slightly when he saw that Tayuya can fly, but quickly schooling his features as he created a flying carpet of sand and used it to fly, the two of them, at breakneck speeds, flying out of the cave as they went on their way. You're not getting away that easily, HN. Deidara exclaimed as he spat out 6 clay balls from the mouth on his hand, clay balls that, with a poof of smoke, turned into birds and began flying at ridiculous speeds towards the escapees, Sasori also opening his mouth and firing a large volley of Senbon towards the escapees. However, that had no effect at all as Naruto summoned his chains again, forming a translucent barrier in front of him and his comrades, the birds hitting the barrier face first and exploding on impact, the Senbon also hitting the barrier and getting easily deflected. When the smoke cleared, it became clear that the explosions had no effect at all on the barrier, at least, that level of explosions didn't, and needless to say, the Senbon also had absolutely no effect, much to Sasori and Deidara's chagrin. They're going to get away at this rate. Sasori trailed off gravely. Like hell they are, HN. Deidara exclaimed as the mouth on his hand spat out another ball of clay that transformed into a large dragon, Deidara jumping on the dragon before sending 2 sets of clay birds, one set towards Naruto and Fu, and one set towards the roof of the cave, wanting to make sure the QB brat kept his barrier up because after all, the QB brat cannot both chase after him and keep the barrier up at the same time. His plan worked like a charm of course, Deidara flying up and out of the cave through the hole that he created at the top, forcing Sasori however to dodge the debris that was falling down on him. However, Fu was quick to react, activating her Biju wings and exiting the cave the same way that the Kazekage and Tayuya exited so that she can intercept Deidara outside, leaving only Sasori and Naruto inside the cave, Naruto deactivating the chakra chain barrier as he took a few steps forward in order to confront Sasori in one-on-one combat. Looks like it's just you and me now, Sasori of the Red Sands. Naruto said with a grave undertone. Of the Red Sands you say? So you know who I am then? Does that mean that the Kazekage's puppeteer brother somehow managed to survive my poison? Did you save him with your, to be frank, quite amazing healing capabilities? Sasori asked, concluding that the only way Naruto could have known his true identity was if the Kazekage's brother, Kankuro, told him who he was. Kankuro, huh? I suppose it makes sense that it was you who put him out of commission. The report said that he had been poisoned, and if there is anyone who uses poison between you and your loudmouth partner, it would undoubtedly be you. But no, I haven't run into him yet, though I have no doubt that he will make a full recovery. Naruto replied, trusting that Shizune would be able to take care of whatever damage Sasori did to Kankuro. Haven't run into him. Does that mean that you came straight here? That doesn't sound a whole lot like what I imagined the protocol would have been when the Hokage gave you her instructions. Sasori said with an inquiring tone. Wait, she doesn't know you're here, does she? He. Yes, of course. I thought it was awfully suspicious that she would throw not one but two Jinchuriki at us. She would have wanted to keep at least one close to her, and given her relationship with you, it would have been you that she kept close to her bosom. Sasori said analytically, and of course, accurately. It doesn't really matter, does it though? I'm here now, about to kick your and take your life. That's the only thing that matters. Naruto retorted. You would be surprised. In my many years of experience, I have come to learn that information, no matter how seemingly trivial, is the most important asset that a shinobi can have. Sasori replied sagely. A pity you never met Zabuza-sensei then. You would have made excellent friends. He believed in information gathering too, in fact, he was obsessed with it. Naruto retorted. Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the mist, the rogue class criminal you encountered on your first mission outside of Konoha. So that is how you know enough about me to call me by my full name. It would explain your choice of weapon too. But, unless the demon's demise was all a ruse, when would he have had the time to train you in his style of kenjutsu? When would he have had the time to teach you about information gathering? Sasori asked curiously. No answer. Should I take that as a yes? That his death was indeed a ruse? Sasori asked curiously, however quickly thinking better of it as he was sure that not even the demon of the mist could fool Akatsuki's vast spy network. After all, between him, Konan, Zetsu, and Kakuzu, they had four of the very best spy masters in the world. No information could be hidden from all of them. No, there is another possibility, isn't there? You could have found his hideout, maybe found a few ninja scrolls that he kept, maybe even, his personal journal and personal bingo book. How close am I? Sasori asked, Naruto narrowing his eyes ever so slightly, realizing that this man truly was supremely experienced, and that had an incredible amount of intelligence. Okay, I'll give it to you, you're good enough to maybe win this information gathering battle that you seem to be enjoying so much. However, can you win an actual battle against me? Naruto retorted as he pulled out his sword, the bandages wrapped around the sword disappearing with a puff of smoke to reveal the Hiraishin no Ken, a sword the size of a Zanbeitu but made entirely of yellow lightning oscillations. My Senbon barrage is useless against him. He'll simply erect the chakra chain barrier if I try that mode of attack unless I manage to surprise him somehow. Should I just let him come to me then and fight him in a kenjutsu battle? Sasori thought, not making a move as he waited for Naruto to make his first move. Not having to wait long at all as the blonde Uzumaki disappeared in a burst of speed, Sasori's eyes widening in surprise at the sheer speed at which the blonde Uzumaki moved. However, thanks to his own super reflexes and his experience, he was able to react in time as he used his metal tail to block the attack, coating the tail with his chakra in order to counter against the razor-sharp lightning oscillations of Naruto's sword. Not wasting the opportunity, Sasori tried to take advantage of the situation as he fired a Senbon barrage at the blonde Uzumaki, figuring that the blonde Uzumaki, at this close a range, would not be able to erect the chakra chain barrier, nor would he be able to block or dodge his Senbon barrage. However, much to the puppeteer master's surprise, Naruto neither attempted to dodge or block the barrage, but instead, with lightning-fast reflexes, sliced all 50 Senbon into tiny microscopic pieces with his right hand alone, his arm movements creating multiple after-images as Sasori stared in awe at the blonde Uzumaki's Kenjutsu abilities. You like it, my flash sword technique? I developed it myself. Naruto asked braggadociously, seeing the stunned look on the master puppeteer's facial features, which was an impressive feat in itself given the fact that the puppeteer wasn't even using his real body. Pride and haughtiness always comes before a great fall. Sasori replied irritably. Then fall, Sasori of the Red Sands. Naruto said as he appeared right in front of Sasori, again using his insane speed to appear in front of the S-ranked criminal and executing a downward slash with his lightning sword, Sasori once again reacting on time and in fact finding it much easier to do so this time as he began to adjust to the blonde Uzumaki's speed, using his chakra-enhanced tail to once again block Naruto's attack. However, much to his surprise, his tail did not connect with the Hiraishin no Ken at all, missing completely as the Hiraishin no Ken made contact with his body, slicing his body in half clean through and connecting with the surface of the cave, creating a large explosion on impact that left a huge crater on the floor of the cave, dust, debris, and something else flying out of the crater, something very peculiar Naruto thought. What was that? Another body. So the thing I killed was not his real body. Was he puppeteering from inside another puppet? Is he insane? Naruto thought as he jumped out of the crater, 100% sure that his enemy was alive as he could not only sense his chakra but was beginning to see him through the dust, standing on the far side of the cave. What just happened? It looked like his sword changed shape mid-attack. No, it's more like, it started to move like a snake and went around Hiriko's tail. His Kenjutsu skill is out of this world. I dare say he is just as good at Kenjutsu as Kisame. Sasori thought with trepidation. You know you're the first person to ever survive both my flash sword and my rippling sword technique. You Akatsuki fiends really are something else. Naruto said casually. Is that so? Well, if it's any consolation, you're the first person to ever destroy Hiriko. The fact that you did it with one shot makes the feat ever more impressive. That puppet was designed with defense and counter-offense in mind. Sasori replied with a vastly different voice, a much more calm and serene tone of voice, a voice that Naruto felt like he could listen to all day long. Hey, aren't you supposed to be like, in your mid-30s? Why do you look the same age as me? Are you Sasori's son? Naruto asked incredulously, finally able to lay eyes on the real body of his nemesis. He looked like an average-sized teenage boy, around 15 or 16 years old with red hair and brown eyes. He was also wearing the standard Akatsuki uniform and had a purple Akatsuki ring on his left thumb with the kanji for sphere on it, also spotting teal nail polish on his fingers. No, I do not have children. I'm not very fond of children, and they take too long to raise into adulthood. I doubt I would have the patience. Sasori replied calmly. Too bad. A ninja as talented as you allowing your bloodline to die off because you lack the patience to raise a child. I can't think of anything more sad than that. Naruto retorted. Maybe I'll change my mind in due time, I'm still only 35 years young after all. Sasori retorted as he took out a summoning scroll and, with a puff of smoke, released two dual swords, grabbing one in each hand as he threw the scroll away. Those swords are made of chakra-conducting metal. So he intends to use chakra-enhanced swords to counter against my Hiraishin no Ken. Does he actually believe that he can beat me in a Kenjutsu battle? Ridiculous. Naruto thought incredulously. Sorry, but you're not leaving this cave alive, no children for you. Naruto said as he disappeared in another burst of speed. So fast that he appeared behind Sasori on his blind spot as if by teleportation. Aiming a downward slash on the puppeteer's head, however. Sasori's head spun around doing a complete 180. His arms and body doing the same as he crossed his swords above his head in order to stop Naruto's attack. Causing a large explosion as the sheer power of Naruto's attack was enough for the shockwaves to pass through the entirety of the surface of the cave, causing waves and fissures on the surface, not to mention the large crater under Sasori's feet, his puppet legs creaking under the pressure of Naruto's power. Naruto surprised that Sasori was able to hold him off at all, but adding more pressure as he continued to press his sword down at the S-ranked criminal. I can't get him off me. I have no choice. Sasori thought as a contraption came out of his mouth and released a deadly poison right on Naruto's face, but, much to Sasori's surprise, Naruto not even trying to get away from the cloud as he continued to apply pressure, so much so that Sasori was now on the verge of having his own swords pressed back down onto his chest. How is this possible? Is he immune to my poison? Is it because he is a Jinchuriki, or is it because of his high-level healing abilities? If it is the former, does it mean that all Jinchuriki are immune to toxins? Sasori thought with trepidation, realizing that if he didn't make a definitive move right now, he was either going to outright die or become severely compromised. Kuso. Sasori thought angrily as, from a contraption on his stomach, a chainsaw shot out through his cloak and attempted to skewer Naruto, who however was fast enough to jump out of the way and go around Sasori, back to his side of the cave, not wanting Sasori to be the one on the side of the exit in case he tried to escape. By the skin of your teeth, or should I say by skin of your torso? Sasori said as his head, arms, and body spun around again in an unnatural, inhuman way in order to face the blonde Uzumaki again. Even you don't actually believe that? Naruto retorted. This body is quite clearly another puppet, but there is no way that his real body is inside this particular puppet, it just couldn't possibly fit inside it. Does that mean that the real Sasori is not even here? Because if that is the case, then where the hell could the real one be? Naruto thought as he expanded his sensory ability over a wider net, to the point that he could sense everything within the entirety of the land of rivers, but unable to pick any other chakra signature that resembles Sasori's chakra signature, although he did discover something quite a bit peculiar. There's a large mass of life force on the left side of his chest area. Is that where he stores the chakra that controls the puppet? Which means, he doesn't need external chakra strings to control the puppet but internal ones. So to destroy this puppet I have to destroy the left side of his puppet, but then where and how do I find the real Sasori? Naruto thought tensely. Oh, I do believe that, and the fact that you have completely halted your advances lends credence to my earlier statement. You were close to getting skewered by me, and you didn't like it, which is why your feet now have you stuck where you are as if knee-deep in mud. Sasori retorted. Or is it because my poison is working? Is that why he won't continue his assault? Sasori pondered. Psychological warfare? I guess I shouldn't be surprised. This guy is not just a powerhouse, he embodies all the fundamentals of being a true ninja, from intelligence gathering and subterfuge, to psychological warfare, trap setting, manipulation, and poisoning, but two can play at that game. Naruto thought as he came up with an idea, a long-shot idea that wouldn't in no way grant him victory, but would give him an indicator about what it might take to attain it. I'm just wondering what that mass of chakra on the left side of your chest is. I want to investigate it, by shoving my Hiraishin no Ken into it. Naruto said with a confident smirk, much to Sasori's surprise and concern, although, thanks to his puppet body, it was easy for him to mask it and not have it show on his facial features. However, as they say, actions speak louder than words, much louder, and Sasori's actions were almost a dead giveaway as he quickly took out another scroll and summoned a whooping 100 puppets to which he connected his chakra strings and had them at the ready, all 100 puppets armed with swords or some kind of blade and all 100 puppets channeling chakra into their blades in order to counter against Naruto's Hiraishin no Ken. Oh, would you look at that? I mean, I thought it was a long shot, revealing my so-called plan like that. I mean, it was possible that the reason I couldn't sense your real body anywhere in the land of rivers was because the real you was hiding behind some kind of chakra cloaking barrier technique or something. However, The strength of the life force in your chakra box or whatever, and the sheer amount of chakra made me think that there was a possibility, small as it was, that this puppet right here was your real body. If it was, and my unlikely hunch was spot on, then your reaction to me revealing my knowledge of your heart box would tell me all I needed to know. So thank you, Sasori Dono, for easing my anxiety and erasing my doubts. Naruto said with a foxy grin. Arrogant little brat, how could I, with over 20 years of experience on him, have been played like this? This is unbelievably vexing, and embarrassing. Sasori thought furiously. You haven't won yet, Uzumaki Naruto. You will soon learn that knowing how to defeat someone, and actually being able to defeat them is not the same thing. Sasori said with that ever calm and serene voice of his, even though he wasn't feeling exactly calm right now. We'll see. Naruto as he activated his Shunpo no Just You, which essentially was a Shunshin technique enhanced by wind manipulation. The result being the complete removal of air resistance, the buffering of any sound to his movements, and the exponential enhancement of the speed of the Shunshin itself, causing Naruto to move at an insane amount of speed as, in just a couple of seconds, he had already sliced and obliterated nearly half of Sasori's puppets before they could even react, much to Sasori's utter disbelief as, even though he had heard from Zetsu that Naruto was able to keep up with the Ryukage's speed, he never expected it to be something quite like this. Still, the more of Sasori's puppets you kill, the stronger he becomes, because the lesser puppets there are to move, the more control he has over them. Therefore, as the numbers dwindled, the more Sasori could react to Naruto's speed, although react was really an overstatement as they all got obliterated anyway, up until there were only 3 remaining, which was when Sasori began to be able to block and counter some of Naruto's attacks, this time Naruto being the one in disbelief as he realized that he might have actually underestimated Sasori, the blonde Jinchuriki jumping away in order to reassess the situation. Sasori is a sensor type that is quite certain, a very good one. The puppets are super strong and fast because they, hard as it is to believe, have their own chakra source which he then enhances with his own chakra. They don't have anywhere near my movement speed, but they move with unnatural reflexes because of Sasori's chakra strings and his sensory abilities. Also, their movements are awkward and unnatural, they don't move like normal humans. Finally, because Sasori is standing far back at a much safer distance, he is able to see the whole battlefield and all of my movements from his vantage point. Blind spot attacks on the puppets therefore do not work. This guy is no joke, he really is an S-rank ninja. Naruto thought warily. Alright, time to end this. Naruto said as he charged, once again using the amazing speed of the Shunpo no Jutsu as he attacked the puppets with speed, skill and aggression, the puppets once again working together to cover each other's blind spots as they repelled Naruto's assault on them. But, one thing Sasori didn't expect, or maybe didn't think was possible, was for Naruto to be able to combine the flash sword technique with the Shunpo no Jutsu, Naruto using the 2 techniques in conjunction and subsequently obliterating one of the unsuspecting puppets, leaving Sasori with only 2 remaining puppets. Naruto, knowing that the 2 remaining puppets would be stronger than they were when there were 3 of them, used his wits to consecutively catch Sasori by surprise, Sasori ready this time for the flash sword flash step combination but Naruto, at the last possible moment, switching to a rippling sword flash step combination, thus, obliterating both of the last remaining puppets, slicing them into microscopic pieces like he did with most of Sasori's puppets. However, as soon as the last 2 puppets died, Sasori was already summoning another puppet that looked just a little too real to be a mere puppet, and definitely felt real as Naruto could sense immensely potent chakra coming from it. As if its appearance wasn't suspicious enough, Naruto was able to immediately discern the identity of the puppet when he sensed the magnetic release being used by the puppet, having sensed something similar from Gaara just before his battle with Sasori, the iron sand coming out of the puppet's mouth serving as further proof that this was indeed the puppet of whom Naruto thought it was. Sandame Kazekage Dono, so you are the one responsible for his disappearance all those years ago. Naruto thought out loud, a thought that would have driven him over the edge just 3 years ago, but only filled him with a lot of questions right now, like whether Sasori did it purely for power or whether there was some other underlying reason for his actions. Well, it doesn't matter. Power was definitely part of it, otherwise he wouldn't have turned the Sandaime Kazekage into his trump card, assuming this is in fact his trump card. I can't assume anything with this guy. It's one surprise after another. Naruto thought warily. I haven't been pushed this far in a very long time. I believe the last time I had to use this puppet was when I fought one of the Densetsu no Sannin, Orochimaru. You see, most S-ranked ninja are more leadership material than followers. The only way to make them join another organization and follow someone else's orders is to defeat them in battle and earn their respect, grudging as it may be. People respect power more than anything else in the world. Sasori said warily. Does the fact that you joined Akatsuki mean that someone in Akatsuki was strong enough to defeat you even when you used this ability? Naruto asked curiously. Interesting. You don't seem surprised by the fact that I defeated one of your legendary Sannin. In fact, you seem to be treating it as an afterthought. Rather, you're more interested in who defeated me. It says a lot about your mentality. Clearly, the information we have about you is outdated, or was never sufficient to begin with. Sasori retorted. Orochimaru is powerful, I have no doubt about that. However, I already knew even before my training trip that his strength was not insurmountable, because I had seen him lose 2 times, first to Sandaime Dono, and then to Godime-sama. Secondly, I have asked myself many times why he went after Uchiha Sasuke when he was in the same organization as Uchiha Itachi. And then it dawned on me, the reason for his defection from Akatsuki, and why he was so desperate to get his hands on Sasuke. Naruto trailed off. Uchiha Itachi. Orochimaru tried to take Itachi and failed, and it must have been a very profound defeat for him to have gone to the lengths he did to get Sasuke. Of course I met Itachi and Kisame too, and to my surprise, they were even more terrifying than Orochimaru was, despite being far less creepy than him. I remember thinking, Akatsuki must surely have the most powerful shinobi in the world. You haven't disappointed thus far. So why would I be surprised that you defeated Orochimaru? I'm more surprised that you were defeated soundly by anyone. Naruto said, subtly but unquestionably giving praise to Sasori's abilities. Flattery. Really. If you think that will save your life, Uzumaki Naruto, then you are mistaken. Sasori said as a sheet of iron sand under his feet levitated him into the air, more iron sand forming around him until he was enclosed in an sphere of iron sand. Daisen no Mi. Naruto heard Sasori say from inside the sphere as another smaller sphere formed above Sasori and took the form of an eye. The iron sand version of Kazekage-sama's sand cocoon and third eye technique. This is going to be troublesome. I have to end the battle instantly before things get out of hand, Naruto thought as he lifted his right hand in the air and formed a larger than normal Rasengan with wind blades of destruction circulating around it, the wind blades causing an almost unbearable screeching sound. Wind style. Rasenshuriken. Naruto said as he immediately threw the Rasengan with all of his might, the jutsu flying at a ridiculous speed as it cut a warpath through the air and headed for the sphere in which Sasori was enclosed. Sasori, realizing the danger, quickly erecting a wall of iron sand in front to stop the Rasen Shuriken, but not in time as the jutsu was already close to the Setetsu no Muya, his iron sand cocoon. Sasori, not willing to overly rely on the Setetsu no Muya, tried to escape through the back of the sphere along with the Sandaime Kazekage, and almost did not make it as the Rasenshuriken expanded and sucked everything into it, Sasori and the Kazekage almost getting sucked into the Death Chakra sphere of destruction, but, thanks to a combination of Sandaime's magnetic release and Sasori's chakra strings, Sasori and his puppet were able to somehow pull themselves away from the suction effect. That was a little too close for comfort. Sasori's thought process trailed off as he got skewered directly in his heart box with a kunai, Naruto having appeared out of nowhere and stabbed him right through his most vulnerable body part, in fact, his only vulnerable body part. How? Sasori stuttered, unable to understand at all what the hell was happening. You're a sensory type, a very good one. It's not easy to surprise you, so I needed to completely erase my chakra signature in order to get the drop on you. It's an Uzumaki clan thing, the ability to completely erase one's chakra signature. It comes at a price, of course. You can't both extinguish your chakra and use it at the same time. You have to choose one. Plus, I had to seal away the Hiraishin no Ken before utilizing this tactic, otherwise it would have been pointless to extinguish my chakra. Naruto explained as he gently placed Sasori on the ground, using his chakra again in order to sense his surroundings and be able to move at top speed at a moment's notice. You mean to tell me, even without access to your chakra, you can move that fast? Fast enough to get me, even if I was completely caught off guard? Sasori asked in disbelief. I'm strong and fast enough to defeat most Chunin without access to my chakra. The Uzumaki clan were known for their strong bodies after all. However, what really got you was the Rasenshuriken. It almost killed you, so your attention was focused almost solely on it. It also has a lot of chakra, which means, for a chakra sensor like you, it was as if the sun was shining directly in your eyes. Your senses and reflexes would have been dulled for a brief period at the moment of explosion. I took advantage of that. The window was small, any slight miscalculation could have ended in my death, but reward goes to the brave. You have to be willing to risk death to win, plus, I didn't want to see what other surprises you might have, whether that be your main body, the Sandaime Kazekage, or some other trump card in your other sealing scrolls. Naruto replied. Also, I was lucky that my Rasenshuriken went past your iron sand wall before you could erect it. Why would you erect an iron sand wall when you already had your iron sand cocoon to protect you? It's because you weren't sure if the iron sand could protect you from my Rasenshuriken. You wanted to use the wall as a test, or at the very least, to cause an early explosion so that the Rasenshuriken doesn't reach your cocoon, but because your wall was not erected in time, you had no choice but to abandon the cocoon just to be safe. Your overly cautious nature, however, worked against you this time. It was no match for my risk-reward tactics. Naruto elaborated, Sasori utterly amazed that someone had somehow managed to use his, up until now, nigh-perfect tactical acumen against him. My fighting style is centered around either predicting or controlling the actions of my opponents to lead them to their untimely deaths. Your unpredictable nature and unique abilities were just a horrible style matchup for me. I cannot believe it took someone like you, with not more than 4 years of experience, to completely dismantle me. Uzumaki Naruto, you truly are one of a kind. Sasori said with both incredulity and praise, and then finally acceptance as the S-ranked ninja accepted his pending demise. Both your puppet body and your trump card, Lord Kazekage, are still intact, and your life force is fading rapidly. So I must ask, would it be an insult to your death if I passed these precious heirlooms on to Lord Kazekage's elder brother, Konkuro? Admittedly, I don't know much about puppeteering, and I doubt he is as talented as you based on what I've seen and your achievements, but his passion and commitment to this shinobi craft is unquestionable. I believe he will bring honor and fame to your art. It will live on, through him, and perhaps his descendants. Naruto said, Sasori surprised by the compassion and sincerity of the blonde Uzumaki, even more surprising being the fact that, despite the sincerity of Naruto's words and feelings, Sasori couldn't find a single opening for one last final attack, the blonde Uzumaki staying alert throughout the conversation. Akatsuki does not tolerate betrayal. If I were to pass on my craft to Konkuro, who will then use my craft to fight against Akatsuki to protect his brother, would that not make me a traitor? Sasori asked rhetorically, surprising Naruto slightly as, even at the brink of death, with absolutely nothing to lose anymore, Sasori still didn't want to betray his comrades. So even members of a criminal organization like Akatsuki have honor and integrity in their actions and refuse to betray their comrades. I don't know what I expected, but it was not quite this. Nevertheless, I accept your feelings, Sasori Dono. I don't agree with a lot of your decisions, obviously, but I respect you nonetheless. You do not have to bequeath your inheritance to Konkuro, but, the shinobi principle of taking the spoils of war still applies. So I will claim your puppets and whatever other knowledge I find from you for myself as the victor of our battle, and then I, not you, will bequeath those items to Kankuro. Would that allow you to rest easily? Naruto asked compassionately. What an interesting child. No, what an interesting young man you are. Yes, I believe that will suffice. Now, before I pass on, let me give you some information that might help you. We of the Akatsuki are aware that the reason for your training trip was not just to defeat us, but to prepare to defeat Orochimaru as well, so that you can save your beloved friend Uchiha Sasuke. I have some information for you regarding that, Sasori said as he pulled out another 2 scrolls out of his jacket, one of them disintegrating into ashes while the other was handed over to Naruto, the blonde Uzumaki raising a curious eyebrow at that little development. The one I destroyed contained all the intel that I collected for Akatsuki. This one however has all the intel I have on Orochimaru, including the details of my spy that I have in Orochimaru's court. It also has my journal notes on espionage and intelligence, and espionage-related ninjutsu and fuinjutsu. This, Uzumaki Naruto, is my gift to you. Use it. Use it, wisely. Sasori trailed off as he finally ran out of time, the redhead puppeteer unable to keep himself alive any longer. Goodbye, Sasori Dono. It was an honor to do battle with you. Naruto said as he clasped his hands together and made a short prayer for Sasori, before quickly rising up and preparing to seal away the Kazekage's puppet body. This guy would have been troublesome if I didn't act quickly. Fighting an iron sand user in a small, enclosed space would not have been ideal. No doubt it was a powerful weapon, but because Sasori was powerful in his own right even without it, he underestimated how to use it to its full potential. Someone like Kankuro, who isn't that strong without his puppets, will not underestimate how to use this power, especially when his brother is a sand-using magnetic release user too. Naruto thought warily, hoping that this wasn't a decision that would come back to haunt him in the future. No, taking it for myself and the Uzumaki clan won't do. We can't be allies with the sand and then turn around and use their beloved sandame as a puppet weapon. That is grounds for war, even if said tool was obtained legally by virtue of the spoils of war custom. Some things transcend laws and regulations. Besides, Kankuro needs this to be able to better aid Lord Kazekage in battle. It's the best way I can ensure Gaara's safety, along with that of his family and village. Naruto thought, done sealing the sandame away as he then sealed the corpse of Sasori himself away and began flying back to Sunagaku. That went well, but I have to stay vigilant. Akatsuki might have sent reinforcements. Naruto thought as he flew back to Sunagaku at Mach speed. Aftermath. You called for us, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said warily, wanting nothing more than to run away to the other side of the elemental nations right now, all because of the scathing look that the Godime Hokage was giving him. He and Naruto had been summoned to the Hokage's office, and given the urgency and hostility with which the Anbu had summoned him, Kakashi knew that Anko's actions were somehow going to fall on his shoulders. After all, he was the team captain and as such, although he never asked Anko to summon Manda, it wasn't out of the question that Tsunade might want an explanation from him more than anyone not named Mitarashi Anko. What the hell happened, Kakashi? How could you allow her to summon Manda of all people, of all snakes smack in the middle of the village? Do you have any idea the untold horrors that thing is capable of? If you think Orochimaru is evil, well, I have news for you. Orochimaru might as well be a nice guy compared to goddamn Manda. Tsunade exclaimed angrily. Gee Godime-sama, I had no idea she even had the ability to summon him. I don't know what she was thinking. Forgive me, but I'm as clueless as you are on the matter. Please remember that this was her first day as a member of my team. I have no idea what motivated her to do such a thing. Kakashi said carefully but clearly and concisely, wanting to make sure that there was no misunderstanding whatsoever about his position on the matter. Why do you think she did it? Tsunade finally asked, releasing a long, tired, and exasperated sigh, unable to deny to herself that Kakashi made a damn good argument, which meant that she, at least at the moment, did not have an outlet for her anger. I cannot think of any particular logical reason to do such a thing, unless she's a traitor, Kakashi trailed off gravely. She's not a traitor. Naruto spoke for the very first time, catching both Tsunade and Kakashi off guard with not only his declaration, but at how confident he sounded in it. At least, that's not why she summoned Manda. Naruto added. Oh, and why is that? Tsunade asked incredulously. Naruto trailed off, a little wary not only about revealing his secret but also at Tsunade's reaction to it, seeing as he hadn't told her about it when she asked him about his abilities the previous day. What? Spill it out, god damn it! Tsunade demanded impatiently. I can sense negative emotions, all emotions actually, but especially negative emotions. It's one of my sensory abilities. Naruto said warily. What? Naruto, I vividly remember asking you about your abilities yesterday, why didn't you tell me about this, if it is even true? Tsunade asked furiously. A ninja never reveals all of their secrets. That's what I was taught. Naruto replied, Kakashi sweating nervously as he couldn't believe that Naruto, again, was using his own words against him, the situation not made better at all by the look that Tsunade gave him after Naruto's response, Tsunade automatically assuming, correctly, that Kakashi was the source of those little words of wisdom. Is there any other secret ability you wish to tell me about? Tsunade asked with venom on her tongue, giving him a look like she was daring Naruto to lie to her face again. No, Hokage-sama. There isn't. Naruto deadpanned, internally smirking at Tsunade's folly. After all, she didn't ask if he was hiding any other secret abilities from her, she asked if there were any other secret abilities that he wanted to tell her about. As far as he was aware, there weren't any other secret abilities that he wanted to talk to her about, which meant that his answer was objectively not a lie. Quote, quote, what did you sense from her, with your so-called emotion-sensing abilities? Tsunade asked finally, after subjecting Naruto to a very long and uncomfortable staring contest. Fear. She was scared when I turned my eyes on her, or at least her shadow clones was. And then surprise, shock, and confusion after she summoned Manda, followed by fear again when she fell off his head and realized that she was about to be eaten. Naruto explained calmly. That makes it sound like she unintentionally summoned Manda. How the hell does someone unintentionally summon Manda of all people? Do you know how much chakra it takes to summon Manda? Tsunade asked incredulously. More or less the amount it takes to summon Gamabunta Dono. Naruto deadpanned. Exactly. It takes a ridiculous amount of chakra. Which goes back to my question. Tsunade said incredulously. Do you think it is possible that someone was controlling her? Kakashi asked gravely. I don't know, I wasn't there, god damn it. The two of you were. What do you think? Tsunade said in frustration. If Kakashi-sensei didn't see any indication of her being controlled with his Sharingan, and I didn't sense anything with my sensory abilities, then it is very unlikely that she was being controlled. I think that she was scared and intimidated after I took out Sakura. I think she didn't see any other way for her and Kakashi-sensei to win except to summon a boss-level summon. I don't think she intended or expected to summon Manda himself. We have 3 boss-level summons in Mount Myoboku. I think it is safe to say that they have more than Manda at the Raichi Cave of the Snake Summons. I mean, we saw a 3-headed one attack the village 3 years ago. Naruto explained patiently. Anko is going to owe me big time after this if she manages to get away without a jail sentence. Naruto thought. Quote, quote. Fine. Whatever. I'll have Yamanaka Inoichi interrogate her. Your testimony is the only reason I'm even giving her a chance and not sending her straight to a black site and making her disappear forever. Mistake or not, she risked the entire Konoha with that little stunt, and by little stunt I mean big horrible stunt. If she does anything like this again, I'm holding both of you accountable. Tsunade said angrily. Me. Tsunade-sama, Kakashi trailed off, wanting nothing more than to point out that it was Naruto vouching for Anko and not him, but then remembering his own words before he could. Those who betray the village are trash, but those who betray their comrades are worse than trash. Damn it, Kakashi thought in frustration. What? Spit it out, damn it, I don't have all day. Tsunade said angrily. Nothing. Please, Godime-sama, forget I said anything. Kakashi said with resignation. Quote, Naruto, what the hell was that thing you used on Manda? And what the hell did you do to Sakura? She's in critical condition because of you. You practically destroyed her liver. Tsunade said furiously. Ahem, Tsunade-sama, Sakura is dangerous. She has your super strength. Holding back was not an option, especially when I still had two other elite Jonin to deal with. I tried by all means to defeat her without killing her though, which it seems I succeeded. Naruto replied almost like he had rehearsed the whole speech, which almost sent Tsunade over the edge if it wasn't for the fact that she didn't want to believe that Naruto could control his emotions better than her. At the very least, she didn't want to lose to someone young enough to be her son in that department. You've changed. The Naruto I knew would never have hurt Sakura the way you did. Tsunade said with disappointment. True. But you have to understand, Tsunade-sama, I was basically her cup holder, her little pet craving her attention, her little pet that would do anything for her no matter how absurd or demeaning. Because of this, she developed a spoilt, obnoxious, controlling, and superior personality complex towards me. Not to take any accountability from her, because everyone is responsible for their own actions, but in that same breath, I was responsible for allowing her to treat me like that. I basically begged her to. So now you're punishing her for it? Tsunade asked with displeasure. No, I'm disciplining her. Understand this, in her mind, I'm inferior to her and she cannot believe that I have the nerve to defy her. I spent years unintentionally conditioning her to treat me this way. Of course, I'm not that boy anymore, so now it is my responsibility to recondition her to understand that I'm my own man, with my own personality, my own dignity, and my own respect. I'm not trying to punish her, I'm just treating her like I would anyone else. She attacked me with deadly force, and I attacked her with, not deadly but aggressive force. It might take time, but eventually, she will realize that I'm not someone to be trifled with. Naruto replied honestly, Tsunade not knowing whether to respect Naruto, fear Naruto, or beat the shit out of him, eventually deciding that this whole Naruto-Sakura situation was just too much bullshit for her. It was a team sparring match, so I can't do anything about it. Ninja techniques and abilities, by nature, are deadly techniques, so it's not actually a surprise that sometimes people end up in the hospital. It actually happens a lot. Doesn't mean I'm happy about any of this though, Tsunade said with a threatening undertone, not knowing which side to take between her surrogate son and her surrogate daughter. In a perfect world, Naruto and Sakura would get along. In fact, they would fall in love, get married, and give her lots of grandchildren. Part of the reason she even accepted Sakura as her apprentice was because she had thought she was grooming Naruto's future wife. However, Naruto came back married to two women and didn't seem to give a rat's about Sakura, and Sakura, despite everything, was still obsessed with the spoiled Uchiha deserter. This whole thing was just a big fat reminder to her that she was living in the furthest thing away from a perfect world. The gigantic chakra Buddha statue, what the hell was that, Naruto? When and how did you learn to do such a thing? Tsunade asked incredulously. I trained. I mean, how else does someone develop new techniques? Naruto asked rhetorically, a tick mark appearing on Tsunade's forehead as her rage began to boil, Naruto however not giving her a chance to explode as he continued speaking before she could say or do anything. Rasengan is said to be the pinnacle of chakra-shape manipulation, right? I'm a master Rasengan user with a nigh unlimited chakra reserve, plus, the Hiraishin no Ken's abilities are based on high-level chakra and elemental manipulation. 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 3, or in this case, it's equal to the Buddha statue. Naruto replied as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Quote. Honestly, Naruto, your growth rate has been insane. It's hard to believe how powerful and competent you have become over just 3 years. However, if the purpose of the training trip was to prepare you for Akatsuki, then I have to say that it has been a monumental success. You've done well for yourself, Naruto. At least I can rest a little easier knowing that you can handle yourself, though if I were you, I wouldn't take anything for granted. No one, no matter how powerful, is invincible. The Hokage monument should tell you as such. All 4 of my predecessors died in battle despite their power and experience. Stay vigilant, Naruto, Tsunade said with concern and an air of caution. Thank you for your kind words, Tsunade Ba-chan. Your words have reached my heart and I have fortified my mind with them. Naruto replied sincerely. Good. You're dismissed. I would like to have some words with your sensei, in private. Tsunade said firmly. As you command, Hokage-sama. Naruto bowed respectfully before disappearing with a shunshin technique. So, what do you think? Tsunade asked curiously. Excuse me, Kakashi asked, not sure exactly what the nature of the question was. What is your assessment of Naruto's abilities? We already knew he was strong enough to go toe-to-toe with the 5 Kage, but today, he showed a completely different but equally dangerous skill set to the one we knew about. In fact, given how big and how powerful his lightning Buddha showed itself to be, I would argue he showed much greater power today than he did against Lord Raikage. So, what is your assessment? I want to know your true feelings. Is he ready to succeed me as Hokage? Is he strong enough to survive the no doubt soon to be coming Akatsuki onslaught? And, is he, in your opinion, the strongest ninja in the village? Tsunade asked curiously, Kakashi deciding to take the time to seriously consider the question as he didn't want to give an inadequate answer. Quote. I cannot say for sure. I do not know yours or Jiraiya-sama's true ceiling, and then of course there is Guy to consider. His power is only temporary, but when he opens the 7th gate, he is terrifying, to say the least. Also, power without skill and strategic intellect is meaningless in the shinobi world. Kakashi began, taking a moment to collect his thoughts before continuing. However, having said all of that, I do believe he has the most firepower without much of a doubt, even without the power of the Kyuubi. When you factor Kyuubi's power in, then it's really no longer in question. He also has a highly versatile arsenal from what I have seen, and I have a hunch that he hasn't shown us everything yet. He might possibly be the most versatile ninja in the village too, even more than Jiraiya-sama and I. Kakashi continued, hoping that Tsunade found his answer to be satisfactory. I cannot say if he is ready to succeed you. Being Hokage is not just about having individual strength, you also need to be able to coordinate an entire army in battle. You need to have a good head for team strategy and battle tactics, and you also need to have won the love and admiration of the people. The people do not know about any of Naruto's feats. Naruto doesn't seem particularly keen on teamwork. He seems to, his wives notwithstanding, prefer to fight alone. I'm also not yet satisfied that he can even be trusted given the shroud of secrecy around him, his abilities, and his activities over the last 3 years. That is the gist of my thoughts, Godime-sama. Kakashi concluded his explanation. Most of what you said, I agree with. However, didn't Naruto fight and defeat Shukaku and his Jinchuriki in the war between Konoha and the Suna-Oto alliance 3 years ago? Surely the people remember that? Tsunade asked with a raised eyebrow. Yes, but he and Gamabunta-sama used a combination transformation technique in that battle. They turned into the 9-tailed fox. The people believe that Naruto transformed into the fox itself to fight Shukaku. Some even believe he and Shukaku collaborated to destroy the village, all of the latter being civilians of course. Kakashi replied. So the civilian council have convinced the people that Naruto transformed into the fox in order to reenact what happened 16 years ago. Those stupid assholes. Tsunade thought as she gritted her teeth in frustration. Quote. Okay, that's fine. Naruto will have many chances to prove himself, I'm sure. In fact, Tsunade trailed off as a light bulb went on in her head. What are you thinking, Tsunade-sama? Kakashi asked curiously. It's a risky gambit, but I was thinking, maybe all the shinobi and civilians of the village should get to see Naruto, Tayuya, and Fu's battle against Lord Raikage and his elite guard. I mean, why not? All of the Kumo shinobi and civilians saw the battles, so why can't the same happen for Konoha? Surely that would earn Naruto and his wives a heck of a lot more credit within both the civilian and shinobi ranks of Konoha. At least no one would be surprised when he is named Hokage after seeing what he can do. Tsunade said with a confident smirk on her facial features. I don't know. No offense, Hokage-sama, but they call you the legendary sucker for a reason. You don't do well with gambling, and this would be a very big gamble. Kakashi said warily. Only when I gamble with money. Every time I have bet on myself or on Naruto, I have enjoyed success. Tsunade said confidently. There are still some other issues. I'm concerned about Naruto's ability to protect others. He's a great fighter, but what about teamwork? What about the destructive nature of his abilities? Can he fight an enemy while protecting the village from harm, both from his own and the enemy's abilities? Kakashi asked cautiously. Tell me, Kakashi, how was his teamwork before he left the village on his training trip? Tsunade asked curiously. It was actually very good, surprisingly good, especially in the most dire circumstances. Kakashi replied. Then we have nothing to worry about. If his teamwork was good when he was mostly incompetent as a ninja, then it cannot be any worse than it was back then now that he is a highly competent ninja. When it is required, he will use that skill. Also, if he could protect the village from Shukaku as a genin without causing any harm and destruction to the village and its inhabitants, then I'm pretty sure he can do it far better now. After all, according to you, he is arguably the most versatile ninja in the village. Tsunade said with confidence and self-assurance, Kakashi realizing right then and there that nothing anyone said was going to change her mind. If I may ask, Godime-sama, are you planning to step down any time soon? Kakashi asked warily. Of course not. I still have a few years in me. However, I have to prepare the seat for Naruto. That was after all, the initial reason for my return, to hold the position until Naruto was ready to ascend. I came back because I believed in him. That hasn't changed, Tsunade said with unwavering confidence. Quote, quote. I see. By your leave then, Hokage-sama. Kakashi said as he bowed respectfully. You may go. Thank you once again for your input. Tsunade said as Kakashi bowed one more time before leaving the office. Border of Suna and the land of rivers. Wow. That's a very big explosion. That's freaking big enough to destroy a hidden village. Is this the same jutsu he used to defeat Gaara? Naruto thought with a little concern because of the fact that he was sure that Fu-chan was caught smack at the center of that explosion. After all, he had sensed her chakra right next to where the explosion originated. Wait, something's moving underground. Wow, that's insanely fast. Is he riding some kind of underground clay creature? No, he must be inside of it. It would explain why I can't sense him but can sense his jutsu. I can't believe that explosion release guy managed to escape. Damn it, Naruto thought in a little bit of frustration, wanting nothing more than to go after the explosive Akatsuki fiend and finish him off, but right now too concerned about Fu-chan to worry about anything else except to make sure she was okay. That totally goes against the shinobi code. I should be prioritizing the mission, but screw that. Fu-chan comes first. Naruto thought as he increased his flying speed until he had reached the battlefield, arriving at the center of where the explosion originated with a sonic boom, unable to sense if Fu was alive or not because the entire area was saturated with the explosive release guy's chakra. Fu-chan, Naruto shouted, trying to see past the smoke and debris. Naruto-kun, is that you? I'm here. Don't worry about me, I'm safe. Fu shouted, Naruto releasing a huge sigh of relief as he flew closer to where the sound was coming from, surprised to see Fu trapped inside her own particle release, atomic dismantling jutsu, a cube-like, three-dimensional, transparent chakra construct. Hey Fu-chan, you wouldn't be having any suicidal thoughts, would you? Because you can talk to me about it. You don't have to do this. Naruto said gently. Shwat. Ha 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 ha. Wait. Oh, you mean. Fu trailed off as a light bulb lit up in her head, realizing how her current situation might look like to someone who knew about how the particle release works. He. No silly, I'm not suicidal. Fu laughed heartily. That damn Deidara actually helped me come up with a new jutsu on the spot, at least, a different application of my jutsu. You see, this cube, as you know, disintegrates everything trapped inside of it. However, by reversing that application and channeling it outward, I made it that the jutsu disintegrates anything touching the cube or coming towards the cube from the outside. Fu said excitedly. You turned a previously offensive jutsu into a defensive barrier ninjutsu in the heat of the moment. And I thought I was a ninjutsu genius. You're amazing, Fu-chan. Naruto said with childlike awe, looking at Fu and her jutsu with stars in his eyes, like a toddler who just received his first Christmas present. Thank you, Naruto-kun. That means a lot coming from a genius like you. Fu said with genuine, unfiltered joy and bashfulness, a small blush appearing on her facial features. Yeah, by the way, how did you end up getting caught in that explosion? Naruto asked curiously. Deidara substituted himself with an explosive clay clone. I don't actually believe he would just off himself like that. I do not believe I had pushed him that far back into a corner yet. Plus, I sensed something underneath the sand, felt like his chakra. Fu replied, Naruto nodding his head in understanding. After all, Fu was echoing his thoughts on the matter almost word for word. Okay, so how did you find out his name? Naruto asked curiously. I asked him, duh. Fu deadpanned, Naruto rolling his eyes in response. Ha. Just shut up and come here so that you can give your husband a big, warm hug. Naruto said lovingly, thanking the gods that his wife was alive and fine. Fu exclaimed, canceling her atomic dismantling barrier as she flew fast, hard and recklessly into Naruto, not caring at all about potentially hurting him as she knew his body can take it. I'm glad you're safe, Fu-chan. I don't know what I would have done if I lost you. I love you, Naruto said passionately, holding his wife tightly in his arms as he poured his heart out to her. I love you too, and so much more, Naruto-kun. You are my sunshine and my everything. I will never leave you, I promise. Please don't ever leave me, okay? Fu said passionately. Never. Back in Suna. So why don't you tell me what is your problem, Kazekage Tem? Tayuya asked angrily, both Chio and Ebisu holding their teeth at not only the girl's language, but at whom it was directed to, knowing very well how dangerous and unstable the Jinchuriki of Shukaku could be. Sure, they had heard nothing but good things about him in the last 2 years, ever since he somehow became Kazekage. However, they had been under the assumption that he had taken the village over by force or at least intimidation, and that people only spoke kindly about him because they were too afraid of what he might do to them if they somehow earned his ire. So far, they had seen a completely different Gaara to the one they knew growing up. He was calm, calculated, and unnaturally patient, in a way that was scary in itself, a different kind of scary to the crazed maniac he was before, but scary nonetheless. However, they could see that the people around him did not fear him at all, but instead, admired and respected him, loved him even. To say it was a jarring experience would be an understatement, but at the same time, it was a surprisingly good experience. They had a lot of regrets and heartache about Gaara's upbringing as a shinobi. In fact, they had regret about his upbringing as a person, period. After all, they, especially Chio, were heavily involved in the decision to seal Shukaku into Gaara, and then, instead of taking responsibility for what they had done, they had isolated themselves from the village and refused to involve themselves in any happenings inside the village, essentially running away like cowards. I do not take your meaning. Gaara deadpanned. He had a relatively quiet and calm return to the village, because after all, the masses did not even know about his return. In fact, most of the shinobi force itself did not know about his return, only a select few people having been made aware. It had been to Yuya's suggestion that the Anbu silently and discreetly escort them back to the Kazekage tower. She believed that the people would celebrate and relax when they heard the good news, whereas now was the time to be vigilant and cautious in case of a second phase attack from Akatsuki. To that effect, she had summoned her 3 doki and her chameleon summons that Naruto had gotten for her from a previous mission, and had them patrol the village borders of the village after getting information about the border patrol routes and protocols from the Kazekage. Gaara had been, quite honestly, surprised by her forcefulness, and to some extent, had felt like she had essentially hijacked the Kazekage position from him. He also didn't trust her at all. After all, whether she knew it or not, he was fully aware of who she was. After all, his sister had bragged about saving that lazy Nara bastard from the crazy psycho sound bitch for a whole month after the incident 3 years ago, so much so that Gaara could never forget her. He didn't understand, however, how she was even alive, much less how she was now a Konoha Jonin and, according to her, Naruto's wife. He had no doubt that she was a Konoha Jonin because not only was she wearing the Konoha forehead protector, but she was also clearly on good terms with Naruto. However, hell would freeze over before he believed she was Naruto's wife, not until Naruto confirms it himself at least. And even then, it would take some measure of time, he was sure, before he could truly accept it. Don't take my meaning, my foot. You've been staring at me like I'm going to slit your brother's throat or something. I'm the one who saved you and took you back home, remember? Why the would I kill your weird doll-loving brother now, huh? Yuya asked defensively, and quite rudely if one might say. She had her chakra chains out and formed a barrier around Kankuro, with Kankuro floating inside the barrier as his entire body was immersed in green medical chakra. However, that wasn't all that was happening, as the poison inside of him seemed to be seeping out of his pores and began forming a mass of liquid inside a bubble-like barrier, also within the chain barrier. It was an incredible medical technique, unlike anything anyone in the room had seen, and between Baki, Yura, Chio, Ebisu, and the Kazekage himself, they had enough experience to have seen many things in the shinobi world. Yuya had explained that this jutsu could only be used by someone with the Uzumaki bloodline limit, and that Naruto had taught it to her. Chio and Ebisu didn't know who this Naruto was, but given the surprise Yura, Baki, and even Gaara had at the mention of Naruto, she imagined that this Naruto person wasn't particularly known for his medical prowess. Upon asking Baki about it, he had explained that Naruto was the first person to ever defeat Gaara and that he was the Jinchuriki of the 9 tails. He also explained that Naruto was the reason for Gaara's change of heart, the reason Gaara decided to be Hokage and protect the village to atone for his past actions. Hearing all of that, Chio couldn't wait to meet this strange Jinchuriki, especially since Baki explained that he had thought Naruto to be a talentless idiot the first time he saw him fight. How could such a guy have defeated Gaara, who, alone, had defeated platoons of Anbu and Jonin who were specially trained to kill him? How could he have developed such a unique medical technique that could heal injuries and remove toxins that even she couldn't remove? It was just unfathomable. These were the thoughts running through Chio's mind before she was interrupted by the Kazecage's calm and emotion-deficient voice. Quote, "You're a former Orochimaru loyalist and extremist. You were one of his elite and most trusted." Gaara said as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "And you were a crazed psycho-killing maniac, remember? You remember that, right? Or has killing random people on whim made you senile in your young age?" Yuya asked incredulously. "You're implying that I am a hypocrite?" Gaara said thoughtfully. "Oh, I'm not implying it." Yuya retorted, Gaara taking that to mean that it wasn't a theory or suggestion, but rather a matter of fact, at least from her perspective. "You might be correct," Gaara grudgingly admitted, not willing to lie to himself, not that he would be able to even if he tried, it was just not in his nature to do that. Besides, he spent so much time listening to Shukaku insult him and throwing harsh truths at him growing up that he had become accustomed to it. "You know damn well I am. Listen, I don't like the things I did in that snake bastard's name no more than you like the things you did because of your up situation. However, we both care about dipshit. He saved us both from our hell and our own darkness. So let us at least try to get along. I'm his wife, and he sees you as a brother. That makes us brother and sister-in-law. He wouldn't like it if he found out we were not getting along. Yuya said, surprisingly without cursing at all, well except for the part where she referred to her husband as a dipshit. That is fair, I suppose. However, what of your feelings about my sister? If I am your brother-in-law, she is your sister-in-law. She not only defeated you 3 years ago, but from what I understand, she humiliated you. That can, I imagine, cause some uncomfortable feelings. Gaara asked gravely. Your sister, that bitch. Okay, I kind of hate her. However, I'm willing to work on our relationship. I saw how much dipshit values her in his life when we were in Konoha. She's important to him. I also saw how she stood up for him with no hesitation. She's the real deal. I can't justify hating her anymore. Besides, I don't care anymore how our battle went 3 years ago, because I know, without a shadow of doubt, it would go the opposite way if we fought again. So, it's cool, I guess. Yuya said grudgingly. Quote. I accept your feelings. Let us get along from here on out. Gaara said eventually, causing everyone to release a breath they didn't even know they were holding. Later. Konoha Prison Medical Wing. Yo, crazy snake lady. You really lived up to your name today, you know. You truly are the crazy snake lady of Konoha. Naruto said as he entered Anko's secure medical ward, after handing over to the guards a scroll from Tsunade granting him permission to visit Anko. Off, foxy brat. I've been shouted at and lambasted enough for one day. Anko said with a hoarse voice, as if she had spent the whole day screaming at the top of her lungs. You look and sound like hell. That chakra exhaustion is quite a pain in the huh. Not that I would know anything about it. Naruto said as he sat on the single chair that was next to Anko, after propping his sword up against the wall of course. What do you want? I feel shitty enough about what happened without having to have you throwing it at my face. Anko said irritably. Is that an apology? If it is, it's a very crappy one. Naruto retorted. What do you want? You want me to go down on my knees and suck your until you cum in my mouth? Or would you rather I go down on my knees, give you my back, and let you mount me like a stallion? Anko retorted. I would have taken your offer in a heartbeat if I was still single. A chance to mount the crazy and sexy Mitarashi Anko. Who would say no to that? Naruto replied as he imagined the whole scenario in his mind, a dreamy look appearing in his eyes before quickly shaking his head to get rid of the images. I always knew you were destined to be a nasty, depraved bastard. Anko said, shaking her head in dismay at how she just couldn't manage to off-put Naruto no matter how much she tried. I am the nine-tailed demon fox after all. Naruto said amusedly. And I am the crazy snake lady. Anko replied with an involuntary smile. Exactly. Naruto smiled warmly, a comfortable silence settling between the two pariahs of the village. Quote. I'm sorry, Naruto. I wasn't trying to kill you or destroy the village. There are other boss-level summons for the snake contract. The one I was trying to summon is called Garaga. I only summoned him several times before he became a boss level. Based on a snake summon's growth rate, I predicted he would be a boss summon by now. It was a long time ago when last I summoned him. He was very cooperative with me despite potentially risking the ire of Manda by doing so. Manda won't allow me to summon the higher tier snakes. He says I'm too weak and I'm a disgrace to his clan. Anko apologized sincerely. Apology accepted, and I already figured out most of what you said. I didn't know about Garaga in particular of course, but he sounds like a cool dude. Honestly, given my bad experiences with snake summons, I thought all of those guys were great pricks, with Manda being an S-class prick of course. Naruto retorted, causing Anko to laugh at how ridiculous it was for Naruto to actually compile prick rankings for the snake summoning clan. You're crazy, crazier than me. Anko said with amusement. I've been called worse, and so have you. Nevertheless, I'm curious, why summon a boss level? Why not a bunch of smaller snakes? With the chakra you used, you could have summoned 5 or 6 house-sized snakes. Why go for a large one like that? Naruto asked curiously. The house-sized snakes might have been faster than a boss level, and the numbers would have helped. However, I was also concerned about durability. No matter how fast they were, I highly doubt that would have meant anything against your speed. You showed speed and strength comparable to the Rasen Chakra no Yoroi with your Hiraishin no Ken Chakra cloak. I felt that, even if I couldn't match your speed, but if I at least had something big enough and durable enough, it would give you lots of problems. I was also hoping the surprise factor would give Kakashi an opportunity to maybe take you out or incapacitate you with one of his 1000 jutsu. Anko explained, Naruto surprised at just how well thought out her plan of action was. You were counting on the size and therefore wide-scale range of Garaga's attack to counter against my speed, and his power and durability to counter against my strength. That's quite an impressive strategy, Anko-san. Wouldn't have worked though, as you no doubt know by now. Naruto retorted. I heard you made quick work of Manda. They wouldn't tell me how though. If it was any of the boss-level summons of the Toads, they would have told me, and if you had simply defeated Manda with your Taikenjutsu, then it wouldn't be much of a secret, since I already saw your chakra cloak against Sakura. The only reason to hide anything is if either you used the Kyuubi to win, or you used some other secret technique. Since I am under suspicion of being a traitor, they would not tell me in order to keep your secret technique from leaking out. Anko replied eloquently. I keep forgetting you are a torture and interrogation expert. It must have made it difficult for them to interrogate you with you knowing all about torture and interrogation tactics. Naruto pointed out. Not really. It's not like I wasn't cooperating, nor like I didn't understand why they didn't trust me anymore. Besides, there is no way to stop Inoichi-san from reading your mind when you're completely immobilized, especially when your chakra is suppressed. Anko retorted. I see. So when are they letting you back in the team? I mean, we're kinda like the new Sannin now, aren't we? I'm sure Sakura must have signed the slug contract, or will at some point. I'm a toad summoner, and you're a snake summoner. Our sensei is a master of many jutsu, like the third. We're the new legendary Sannin. We need our snake summoner to complete the team. Naruto said jovially, Anko looking at Naruto with a surprised facial expression, not having expected the blonde Uzumaki to think that highly of her. I'm not Sannin level. I don't even have the respect of my summoning species and I almost died just summoning Manda. Anko said in frustration. Well, you won't be with that attitude. Look, take things one step at a time, okay? I said I would fix your curse seal, didn't I? That alone should boost your capabilities considerably. Once you've mastered the cursed seal, you'll be able to summon Garaga or whoever you want and still be able to fight at your full potential. Instead of passing out from chakra exhaustion. Naruto said encouragingly. You think so? Anko asked, not really sure she believed she could ever summon a boss-level summon again without dying. It was a miracle she was even alive right now. I do. Naruto said with conviction. Alright, whatever. I better kick some major after all this. I'm putting my faith in you. Anko said, hoping beyond hope that Tsunade would give her another chance to be with Team 7, because even if she was set free and allowed to continue as a Konoha Jonin, there was no guarantee she would be allowed to return to Naruto's side, not with how overprotective Godime-sama seemed to be when it comes to him. Trust me, you'll be awesome. Naruto said with a genuine smile, however not getting the reaction he expected as Anko seemed sad for some reason. What's wrong? Naruto asked with concern. It's just, you're so much more different from what I expected. When I was briefed about you, I was told your training trip had changed you. That you were cold, distant, and antagonistic. However, in the short time I've known you, you've been kinder to me than everyone has ever been to me. Not even Sandaime-sama or my best friend Kurenai have been this kind to me. Earlier you referred to yourself as the nine-tailed fox. Doesn't that mean that somehow, the hate of the villagers has convinced you that you really are the nine-tailed fox? It just makes me so sad, how people, even some shinobi, cannot tell the difference between a kunai and a scroll. The scroll doesn't turn into a kunai when you seal a kunai into it. Anko said with both anger and sadness. That's not true, Anko-san. I mean, it is true that the scroll doesn't turn into a kunai when you seal a kunai into it, but that has nothing to do with a jinchuriki. A jinchuriki can actually turn into the thing sealed inside of it. I can turn into the fox, and Fu-chan can turn into the demon beetle inside of her. Kazekage-sama can turn into Shukaku too. He did it when I fought him 3 years ago. Naruto said matter-of-factly, Anko's eyes widening in surprise as she didn't expect that response at all from Naruto, even more for it to make perfect sense. So you're saying the hate of the villagers is justified? That they were right to hate you and treat you like a pariah? Anko asked, still not believing that was a fair outcome at all. After all, Naruto didn't choose to be a jinchuriki. Of course not. Their hate and scorn is completely underserved, but their fear and concern. Not so underserved. They'd have to be stupid not to fear me. Back then they should have feared me because of what might happen if I lost control and the Kyuubi took over my mind and body. Now, they should fear me because I have the entire might of the Kyuubi under my full control and at my full disposal. Fearing me was not foolish, but hating me and treating me like scum on the other hand was unbelievably stupid. Kami-sama must have been smiling on them for me to have turned out the way I am. Things could have been so different. Naruto explained. I suppose, in their own twisted way, they trusted Yondaime-sama's seal enough to believe that no matter what they did, the Kyuubi could never break free, or from their perspective, the Kyuubi, which is you, would never be able to unleash its sealed power. Anko retorted amusedly, Naruto chuckling at the irony of it all. Thank goodness the Kyuubi turned out to be such a nice guy, huh? Naruto retorted, now Anko's turn to laugh at Naruto's retort. So, when is the Kyuubi going to fix or redesign my curse seal like he promised? Anko asked excitedly. As soon as the crazy snake lady is released from jail for good behavior. Naruto retorted, Anko spitting out the water she had just began to drink as she laughed uncontrollably, or would have, had she not started coughing uncontrollably instead. It looks like I am not very good for your physical health at the moment. Get well soon, Anko-san. I'll see you soon, okay? Naruto said gently, getting up, placing his sword on his back again, and making his way out of the med room. See you soon, foxy brat. Anko shouted, or at least tried, her voice too weak and too dry for her to succeed, although Naruto heard her all the same. That evening. Suna. Those lights in the sky. What are they? Kisame asked curiously. He is a very tall, muscular man who literally looks like a genetically half-human, half-shark man, spotting blue skin, fin-shaped hair, and a pure white, razor-sharp set of teeth. On his back is a gigantic sword wrapped up in white bandages and he is wearily the full, standard Akatsuki uniform. Celebratory fireworks. It seems that Sunagaku is celebrating the safe return of the Kazekage. Itachi said as he folded his telescope and put it back into his ninja pouch, which was hidden underneath his cloak. He is a very handsome young man, spotting black long hair styled in a ponytail with 2 bangs around his face. His normally black eyes were now blood red with 3 tomoe circulating each eye and he has 2 tear trough marks running from each eye. He is also wearing the full standard Akatsuki uniform just like his partner, complete with a long, black turtleneck cloak with red clouds on it. HN. A little premature, isn't it? Kisame laughed amusedly, wondering how Sunagaku will react to their cage getting kidnapped twice in the span of a few days. They wouldn't be celebrating like this if the Kazekage himself did not permit it. Certainly, he must feel confident in the defenses that they have erected around the village. Itachi replied analytically. So what's the plan then? Infiltration, demolition, distract, divide, and conquer? Kisame asked excitedly. None of the above. The village is heavily fortified. From what I could tell, the village is surrounded by hundreds of Uzumaki Naruto's shadow clones and a multitude of toad summonings. Also, there are a couple of other strange summoning monstrosities and, if I'm not mistaken, signs of chameleon summonings. Infiltration is impossible, and if Sasori Dono's death and Deidara's defeat is anything to go by, then attacking Sunagaku right now, by any method, would likely amount to a suicide mission. Itachi explained patiently. Even for us? Kisame asked skeptically. No one is invincible, Kisame-senpai, that goes for us too. Overwhelming power and skill can be defeated with numbers and strategy. Unfamiliarity with the terrain can also play a factor, even for someone like you who can change the terrain at will to a large extent. Not to mention, based on the information we have about Naruto, Tayuya, and Fu, and the Kazecage's own power and terrain advantage, one can comfortably conclude that the enemy is in possession of not only a numbers and tactical advantage, but that they also, like us, have overwhelming power and skill on their side. Itachi replied. That's not something one expects to hear from someone who single-handedly annihilated the great Uchiha clan. Kisame retorted. I had a tactical advantage. My attack happened unexpectedly, and I was already on the inside. We, Kisame-senpai, are on the outside, and our attack is expected. Itachi countered. I guess even the Akatsuki has its limitations, huh? So it's a retreat then. What do we tell leader? I hope you're planning to be the one to give him the bad news, because I'd rather go up against these odds than to give leader the bad news after everything that has already happened. Kisame said with the almost ever-present amusement that he seemed to always have in his tone no matter how grave a situation. Leader Sama is a powerful man. He can do things on his own that no other people can, which is why he has such high expectations for us. Yet, despite that, Kisame-senpai, leader is not a man driven by ego or haughtiness. He is a very intelligent and patient man. He will understand our decision. Itachi replied as he turned and began tracking away from Sunagaku, Kisame catching up to him and falling in step with him. Why are we going the opposite direction? Kisame asked confusedly. I do not take your meaning. Itachi replied calmly. We know where the Kyuubi and the Nanabi will be going once they leave Sunagaku. They'll be heading back to Konoha. In which case, wouldn't it be more prudent for us to set up an ambush for them on their way back? That way, we can hit two birds with one stone. Kisame suggested. A very good idea, Kisame-senpai. It has one important flaw though. There is an order to capture the tailed beasts. The demonic statue of the outer path requires that we seal the beasts in order from 1 to 9. Capturing the 9 and 7 tails now is therefore not. Itachi trailed off as he heard Samahata wriggle in excitement, turning around to look at Kisame with an inquisitive stare. Someone's approaching very fast, someone with an especially delectable chakra nature. It's the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Kisame said as he turned around and faced the direction of Sunagaku again, his right hand on the hilt of Samahata as he braced himself for battle. Is he alone? Itachi asked gravely. He is. He has become quite the arrogant little brat now, hasn't he? Meeting us out here, dead in the middle of the night, all alone. On that note, our hand is being forced, isn't it? HN. We have no choice but to capture him now. Kisame laughed amusedly. So it seems. Itachi trailed off as the blonde Uzumaki arrived with a sonic boom, causing a crazy amount of wind and sand to wash over the Akatsuki duo, the blonde Uzumaki flying and stopping at such a great speed that it created a mini hurricane in the area. He really can fly after all. What a troublesome ability. Kisame shouted through the wind storm, covering his eyes with his left hand to protect them from the sand, however not completely as he wanted to keep track of the Kyuubi's position. Indeed, Itachi said, eyes narrowed at the blonde Uzumaki. Itachi dono, Kisame dono. It's been a while, hasn't it? Naruto said as he slowly descended until he was standing a very short distance from the Akatsuki duo, his guard completely down as it didn't even remotely look like he was ready for battle. Good evening, Naruto-kun. It is a pleasure to see you again. Itachi greeted politely. Samahata and I have missed you dearly. Rarely do we ever get a taste of as sweet a delicacy as your chakra. Kisame said amusedly. Well, you won't be getting any of that today, unfortunately. I'm not here to fight, besides, I'm just a shadow clone. Naruto said with his hands in his pockets, not a shred of concern whatsoever in neither his demeanor or his tone of voice. How did you find us, Naruto-kun? Itachi asked curiously. I sensed your presence. Not many people have the amount of chakra your friend here has, and not many have chakra as potent as yours, although I must say, based on your chakra and life force, it doesn't feel like you're all that healthy, Itachi-san. Are you terminally ill? Is it possible that I won't even have to lift a finger to dispose of you? Naruto asked curiously, and also with quite a bit of relief really, although there was no way he was going to underestimate the rogue Uchiha, terminally ill or not. Is this true, Itachi-san? Kisame asked, eyes wide in surprise. After all, not only was he, along with Samahata, a censor type, but he was also Itachi's colleague and work partner. How was it even possible that he hadn't discovered that his partner was terminally ill, and yet the QB brat, no, actually, not even him, but his clone, had figured it out with just a mere glance. Quote, Itachi-san, do not believe everything you hear, Kisame-senpai, especially coming from an enemy. Itachi replied, calm as a cucumber, even though he was actually feeling extremely nervous right now as Naruto was threatening to expose one of his most closely kept secrets. Tell you what, Itachi Dono, if you kill Kisame Dono now, or even later, so long as you can provide proof of the kill, then I will cure your illness. I promise. Naruto said diabolically, Kisame's eyes widening in surprise before narrowing again in both displeasure and concentration, keeping his attention on both Naruto and Itachi now. After all, this was the man who killed his own relatives. He would be a fool to believe that their friendship meant more to Itachi than his own mother, father, uncles, aunts, and cousins did. Akatsuki does not tolerate betrayal. What would be the point of me betraying my comrades if it meant they would hunt me down and kill me? If I'm going to die anyway, why not die serving our cause? Itachi retorted. Funny, because Orochimaru betrayed Akatsuki and he is very much alive. If Orochimaru, whom you defeated, can survive Akatsuki, I'm quite certain that so can you. Naruto retorted. Tell me, Naruto-kun, you're a powerful and skilled shinobi, aren't you? You single-handedly defeated Sasori Dono, and you held off the Yondaime Raikage. Your wives, as we are told they are, have achieved similar feats. Why not kill both Kisame and I yourselves? Why go this roundabout route? Itachi asked curiously. Your boss, Uchiha Madara, has the ability to teleport to any location in the world. If we leave the village now to fight you here, miles and miles outside of the village, who is to say he wouldn't teleport himself or any number of Akatsuki into the village while we're away and cause untold amounts of death and destruction, while capturing Lord Kazekage along the way? Naruto asked rhetorically, the surprised reaction he got from Itachi and Kisame telling him not everything he needed to know, but a lot nonetheless. Assuming that Madara is alive, and has high-level space-time ninjutsu to that effect, what makes you think he won't do that anyway when you return to Konoha? Itachi countered, successfully avoiding any direct confirmation of whether Madara was alive or not, or at least, of whether he knew of Madara being alive or not. That won't be as much of a problem as you think. I've made contingencies for just such a scenario. Besides, Lord Kazekage didn't become a bum overnight. Deidara had a tactical and stylistic advantage, that's all. That will be remedied by the time the next wave comes, believe it. Naruto replied. The contingencies he was referring to, of course, was the fact that Kankuro was now in possession of both the puppet of the Sandaime Kazekage and that of Sasori himself. Naruto knew that those two gifts wouldn't automatically make Kankuro an S-tier ninja overnight, but with enough training and enough preparation, it could be achieved within 2 weeks at the earliest, a month at the latest. The power was in his possession, all Kankuro needed to do was to get used to using it and to develop battle plans and battle tactics for it. That could be achieved with either sparring another S-tier ninja or two, or sparring a large number of elite jonin consecutively or simultaneously, and to do it consistently. Naruto also felt that, because Kankuro had seen Gaara use Sanjutsu for years and had likely been Gaara's sparring partner many times over the last 2 or 3 years, that Kankuro would, theoretically, find it easy to master the Sandaime Kazekage. The other contingency, of course, was to have Tayuya's chameleon summons discreetly watch over the village and reverse summon her if the village was attacked. Her chameleons were more suited for the task than the toads, because toads don't do well at all in dry landscapes like the desert. They couldn't stay here for an extended period of time, and of course, they didn't have the ability to become invisible like the chameleons. He also was planning to get the Kazekage to accept his Jinchuriki status, by that meaning that he was planning to get the Kazekage to master his Jinchuriki powers. It wouldn't guarantee victory. After all, Akatsuki or S-tier shinobi who likely spent years preparing specifically to do combat against a Jinchuriki, but it certainly would diversify his skill set and allow him access to more raw power. Finally, the Hiraishin no Jutsu. Naruto, thanks to his shadow clone patrol team that was watching over the village, had already marked every area of the village with his jutsu. For him, aiding Lord Kazekage was going to be the easiest thing in the world, although actually winning against Akatsuki was definitely one of the hardest things in the world, if not the hardest thing. You're quite the troublesome Jinchuriki, aren't you? Kisame said with displeasure. Of course. You screwed up when you approached me 3 years ago. You should not have retreated. It was a grave mistake because the power that you displayed and the fear it put into me gave me a clear goal for me to aim for, and the result, well, one of your own is dead by my hand. That alone says a lot, doesn't it? Naruto asked rhetorically, not giving Itachi or Kisame a chance to reply as he quickly moved to redirect the conversation back to Madara. Itachi-san, what is Uchiha Madara to you? I know you have no obligation to answer me honestly, but if you do, I can give you something in return. Naruto asked with a serious tone. Most people would have ridiculed me for the mere insinuation that Madara is alive, much less saying it as a matter of fact, but not these two. They also haven't rejected my insinuation that he is the leader of Akatsuki. They know something. Naruto thought suspiciously. Even if I knew something, what could you possibly do for me that would make me reveal that information? Itachi asked neutrally. It's not something I would do, but rather something I would not do. If you answer my question, I won't tell Sasuke that you're ill. In fact, apart from my wives, I won't tell anyone. It's a fair deal, isn't it? Naruto asked rhetorically, Kisame looking at Itachi with unhidden curiosity as he too wanted to know the answer to Naruto's question. He knew Madara was alive, of course, how could he not know, when the guy was his best friend and the only one he trusted in the world. However, he had no idea that Madara was the one actually running things in Akatsuki. Sure, it was Madara's suggestion that he join the organization, but he obviously failed to mention that he was the founder and leader of Akatsuki, and he certainly failed to mention that he had any relation to Itachi whatsoever apart from blood relation, although to be fair, the last time they met, Kisame hadn't even known who Itachi was. I'll tell you if you promise not only to keep my illness a secret, but also that you won't tell anyone about my answer to your question, or about Madara's existence. Itachi replied calmly, Naruto's eyes lighting up as that was basically confirmation that Itachi had some kind of connection to Madara, which meant that Akatsuki had some kind of connection to Madara. Fair enough. I promise I won't reveal to anyone, apart from my wives, that you're ill, and I won't reveal Madara's existence or your connection to him to anyone apart from my wives. I also promise not to reveal any of this even to them if they do not swear an oath to me that they will not reveal any of this information. Naruto said, Itachi using his Sharingan to Naruto's chakra and body language in order to determine if he told any lies, pleased to find that no lies whatsoever appeared to have been told. Uchiha Madara is my master, and I am his protege. He is the one who mentored me into becoming the shinobi and the man I am today. He is also the one who recruited me into Akatsuki, and he was the one I asked to help me to slaughter my kin. He was more than happy to help after the clan's betrayal and banishing of him. Itachi deadpanned. I see. Naruto said thoughtfully, satisfied with the answer to his question but a little frustrated because the answer raised so many more questions now. Dad told me that Madara was responsible for the Kyuubi incident that led to his and mom's death when I was born, but now I find out that Madara was directly involved in the Uchiha clan massacre and mentored Itachi. Just how many other incidents in Konoha was he involved in? What is his end goal? I can understand hating Konoha. Hell, I have many reasons to hate it myself, but why go about it in such a roundabout way? Naruto thought, confused, however, ultimately, deciding that the only way to get any answers was to get them from the horse's mouth. I have another offer for you. Tell me where Madara is right now, and if you cannot or won't do that, then set up a one-on-one battle between he and I at a location of your choosing, and I'll heal your illness. Naruto offered, much to the surprise of both Kisame and Itachi, as, of all the possible prepositions Naruto could have offered, they didn't expect something as crazy as this at all. Going straight for the head, huh? Cut off the head and the rest of the body shall fall. Do you really believe that? Do you believe you are ready for Madara? His powers and abilities are too vast and advanced, so is his knowledge and experience. Why take such a risk? Itachi asked curiously. Why not? If you are not willing to risk death for victory, then you are not worthy of being called a shinobi. Naruto retorted. Being a shinobi means the opposite, Naruto-kun. Being a shinobi means taking the least risk with the highest reward as much and as often as possible. Itachi countered. Not if you're an elite ninja. Elite ninja go on S-rank missions. S-rank missions are intrinsically high-risk, high-reward missions. The low-risk, high-reward mentality is for low-tier shinobi. Take you guys for example, going after the 9 Jinchuriki alone or in just 2 men's cells. That's high-risk, high-reward, isn't it? Naruto retorted. I take your meaning, Naruto-kun, but my answer is no. If you somehow know about Madara-sama and are prepared to take such a risk, it must mean that you are pretty confident in your ability to defeat him. You must have one special trump card, or a number of them, dare I say. Which is why I cannot accept your offer. Madara-sama is a prideful man. He will certainly accept your offer. I will make sure he never hears of this. Itachi retorted. Even at the expense of your health? Naruto asked rhetorically. Even so. Itachi deadpanned. Is he really that loyal to Madara? I mean, he killed his own clan and his own parents, why would he be loyal to someone like Madara then? Naruto thought confusedly. Strange. Itachi-san. I was under the impression that your sole obsession was to become the strongest ninja there is in the world. The words you spoke to Sasuke 3 years ago implied as much. I thought you wanted him to mature and awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan so that you can take his eyes. However, what would be the point of that if you died of illness some time after that? For all we know, you could die even before your battle with him. Even if you never die, the way your life force feels right now, you would always be compromised. So why deny yourself such a good deal and opportunity? Naruto asked suspiciously. You presume too much, Naruto-kun. Everything you said about my so-called illness is based on the presumption that I do not have the means to fix the problem myself. That is a rather bold and reckless assumption, isn't it? Itachi countered. He's very good. Now that I think about it, apart from the question about Madara, he hasn't actually given me a direct answer to any of the hard questions that I have asked. His answers have only been leading statements to make me assume the meaning behind his words. It's a good way to lie without actually telling a lie. I suppose I should have expected as much from arguably the best genjutsu master in the world. Naruto thought. Alright, I'll back off. For now. Thank you for entertaining me, Itachi Dono, Kisame Dono. Next time we meet, it probably won't be under friendly circumstances. If we meet again, prepare for mortal combat. Naruto said as he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Kisame-senpai, do you sense any oncoming shinobi? Itachi quickly asked. No, nothing. Why? Kisame asked curiously. It was possible that Naruto-kun was keeping us talking in order to set up an ambush for us. I just wanted to make sure we were safe. Itachi said as he turned around and began walking away, Kisame this time walking in step with him from the get-go so that he wouldn't have to catch up to his partner like last time. He doesn't seem like the type to do that. He's very direct in his approach. Kisame replied thoughtfully. So it seems. Itachi replied, a comfortable silence settling between the two shinobi, even though neither one of them were stupid enough to let their guard down in enemy territory, or around each other for that matter. Quote. Tell me, Kisame-senpai, how do you know Madara-sama? Itachi asked the question that Kisame was dreading. He is a former acquaintance. Kisame replied, not bothering to play ignorant as he knew that the fact that Itachi was asking that question was because Itachi had already figured out that he had some sort of connection to Madara, although, without knowing exactly what Madara revealed to Itachi, protege or no protege, Kisame was not about to reveal that Madara was the Sandaime Mizukage. Should I maybe have shown more surprise and incredulity when the fox brats started name-dropping Uchiha Madara? Kisame thought, wondering what he could have done to prevent any suspicion from coming his way. Did you know he was the true leader of Akatsuki? Itachi asked tensely. No, I had absolutely no idea, though in hindsight I should have seen it. Nevertheless, that is hardly the most important question, is it? More important than whether I knew or not, is how did the Kyuubi brat know any of this? Whether it's knowledge of Madara-san's very existence or knowledge of his role in Akatsuki, that is not knowledge that even some of the best spy masters in the world can easily get their hands on. Kisame asked with both confusion and suspicion, but also as a way to get Itachi to stop asking him questions about Madara. He didn't know if Itachi knew that Madara was the real Mizukage or not, but he sure as hell was not going to bring it up if Itachi didn't. Naruto-kun is a puzzle that I must admit I am struggling to solve. A very good ninja is hardly ever surprised by anything, because he plans for any and every possible eventuality. However, the number of times Naruto-kun has surprised me over the last 3 or 4 years is quite frankly unfathomable. He is not someone to be taken lightly. Itachi said gravely. Quote. We really should have captured that little shit 3 years ago. Kisame said irritably, which is something that was rare for him as he rarely was ever fazed by anything. He is not a little shit anymore. He's almost as tall as you now, another surprising development. Itachi retorted. All the more reason for me to shave him down with Samahata. Kisame retorted, the duo settling into another moment of silence as they continued their track back to the nearest Akatsuki rendezvous point. Quote. Say Itachi-san, that illness of yours, how long exactly have you had it? Why haven't you told me? Why haven't you told leader? With his abilities, he could. You of all people should realize my reasons. Itachi said, cutting off Kisame before he could finish speaking. Take for instance you and I. Do you think it is a coincidence we were assigned to the same team? We're both known for killing our friends, family, and comrades without hesitation. I was put in this team to kill you and you to kill me if one of us went out of line. Telling you was obviously the last thing I would ever do. Itachi replied sincerely, Kisame nodding his head in understanding as that seemed to make a lot of sense, especially when he thought about their first meeting, in which he basically told Itachi exactly that Itachi should be wary of him more than anyone else. Also, I have enemies even within Akatsuki. Orochimaru betrayed us, and me, and tried to capture me and steal my body. Deidara has made it clear that he will take any opportunity he finds to kill me, and his partner, Sasori Dono, like Orochimaru, is someone who wouldn't hesitate to add a powerful bloodline limit like mine to his human puppet arsenal. Who knows who else is after my scalp within the organization? Itachi asked rhetorically. I see. I guess you're only confiding in me because the Kyuubi brat gave you practically no choice, huh? He just may have helped you though. Here, take Samahata. Well, don't take him, just touch him a little. Kisame said, quickly thinking better of handing over his trump card to not just a kinslayer, but a kinslayer whose biggest secret he just discovered. What is the meaning of this? Itachi asked curiously, frowning slightly when Kisame removed his living sword and pointed it at him, the situation almost feeling like a touch my moment to Itachi, because that's how closely attached to Samahata Kisame was. Samahata is not just a chakra consumer, he heals all of my injuries, even fatal ones. He can heal and regenerate any injury, as long as you don't die instantly. I don't know if he can cure terminal illnesses, but this is as good a chance as any to find out. You'd be doing me a favor too, this could be vital information for me to know about my own limitations. Kisame explained, much to Itachi's surprise, not having known that Samahata had such advanced healing abilities, especially because he had been traveling and going on missions with Kisame for years now. Come to think of it, neither of us have ever sustained any injuries in any of our missions. Itachi thought, quickly realizing the reason he didn't know about this ability. Are you sure curing me is what you actually want to do? It could come back to bite you if I turn traitor. Itachi retorted. Truthfully speaking, he didn't really want to be cured, because he was planning to die at Sasuke's hands anyway. However, if he explained that to Kisame, he'd have to explain his reasons for wanting to die, and if he did that, then Kisame would definitely kill him for it, or at least try to kill him. He knew he was powerful, but even he wasn't foolish enough to believe that he could defeat Kisame without being at full strength, especially when Kisame knew he wasn't at full strength. He could maybe reject Kisame's offer on the principle of distrust, tell him that there is no way that he could know for sure if Kisame wouldn't just drain him of his chakra instead of healing him. However, after that, their partnership would be damaged beyond repair, and most likely, Kisame would see through his facade and begin taking steps to figure out the real truth and eventually eliminate him. You've made my life really complicated, Naruto. Itachi lamented. After midnight, the real Naruto. Well, that was quite a celebration, wasn't it? The people here really love you, man, and it's not even fake, I'm talking real love. I should know, I'm an empath after all. Naruto said, genuinely impressed by how Gaara managed to completely turn around the attitude of the people of Sunagakure towards him. They were in Gaara's family home, a large mansion that spanned a very large surface area, showing just how rich Gaara's family were. Of course, they couldn't be anything but, given that Gaara's family was royalty in the Sand Village, not only because Gaara's father and he himself were the Kazekage, but because from the first one to Gaara himself, all the Kazekage came from Gaara's family. In other words, Gaara's family was the founding family of Sunagakure. Yeah, I've never seen such genuine love and devotion before. The way the people love you, it's like you're their family or something. Fu added, causing a very small but very warm smile to appear on Gaara's facial features. None of this would have happened if it wasn't for you, Naruto. You're the one that changed me for the better, and because of that, I was able to in turn change the people of Sunagakure. None of this happens if I never battled you that day. It's ironic, I thought I would find meaning to my existence by fighting and defeating Uchiha Sasuke and dismissed you completely, but it was in you in the end that I was able to find meaning to my existence. Gaara retorted. Who the wouldn't have dismissed dipshit back then? He looked like a stupid, ignorant little snot-nosed brat. Heck, he even sounded like one. Tayuya retorted. He. So true. I legitimately thought Konoha was pulling some kind of big prank on the other ninja villages by letting him participate in the Chunin exams. Kankuro retorted, causing everyone to laugh at Naruto's expense. Ha. Very funny coming from a guy who puts makeup on his face and plays with dolls. Naruto retorted, successfully turning the tables on Kankuro as everyone started laughing at Kankuro instead of him. Damn it, Naruto. It's not makeup. It's war paint. And they're not dolls, they're deadly weapons of war. Kugutsu is a respected and lethal form of ninjutsu. Kankuro exclaimed indignantly, but only succeeding in fueling even more laughter at his expense. He. Alright, I concede, at least, to the latter part of your argument. Speaking of Kugutsu though, I couldn't help but notice that your puppets don't seem to be anywhere around, I don't even see ceiling scrolls on you. Akatsuki could still attack any time, you know. Naruto asked curiously. Sasori completely dismantled my puppets. He was their inventor after all, he knew all of their weaknesses. Tomorrow I'll begin working on repairs, and maybe even improvements and redesigns if possible. Kankuro replied. So he doesn't have any of his own puppet inventions. Despite his passion for the art, it really doesn't seem like he has the creative juices that Sasori has. However, he has the aptitude and talent to wield puppets. That should be good enough. Naruto thought, as, with a puff of smoke, 3 scrolls appeared on his hand. What the hell is that? Kankuro asked curiously, and suspiciously. Repairing your broken puppets is all well and good. You managed to become a jonin with them after all. However, Kankuro, if you're going to protect your brother, your family, and your village from Akatsuki, you're going to have to level up considerably. These are heirlooms I confiscated from Sasori after I defeated him, spoils of war and all. I would like you to have them. Naruto said as he threw the scrolls at Kankuro one by one, Kankuro hastily catching them and quickly looking at the kanji on the scrolls. Sandame, Sasori, book. What are these exactly, Naruto? Kankuro asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Sasori killed the Sandame Kazekage and turned him into a human puppet, a puppet with its own chakra circulatory system that can also use all of the jujutsu of the person it was made after. In other words, Kankuro, by using that puppet, you'll have full access to Sandame Dono's magnetic release bloodline limit. You'll become a magnetic release user like your brother, and an iron sand user. It's a significant power-up, one that will help you protect everyone you care about, and one that will help you protect the village that your beloved Sandame Kazekage loved and fought so hard to protect. Naruto said sincerely, but also manipulatively. That is sacrilege, you evil child. Sandame-sama was a great man. He deserves to have a proper sending off. Do you even know the potential ramifications of what you're suggesting? Lady Chiyo exclaimed indignantly. She's right, Naruto. This is absurd, and quite frankly sick. Kankuro said with a certain level of disgust, unable to believe that Naruto of all people would suggest he participate in such a disgusting, sacrilegious act. I know the ramifications, or potential ramifications, Chiyo-ba-sama. I know what this can lead to. Human puppeteering is banned in Suna, even though up until now, only Sasori Dono, you, and Ebisu-sama even knew of its existence. If Kankuro is allowed to use a human puppet, then it would mean that Kazekage-sama has to lift the ban on the human puppet arts. If such a thing happened, we might see, in the future, puppeteers killing their own comrades who have bloodline limits or some other special abilities, or even just intentionally allowing them to die when they could have saved them so that they can get their corpses. Naruto said, pausing slightly to let everyone digest the information before carrying on from where he left off. However, there is a very easy solution to this. Sandame Dono was Kankuro and Kazekage-sama's grandfather. Therefore, his body is an heirloom passed down through the clan, and the human puppet technique is a Sabaku clan forbidden technique. That solves everything, doesn't it? No one else in the village knows about the existence of human puppets or that the practice was banned, and no one knows how to make one, except Kankuro, who now has Sasori's journals and guidebooks. Naruto explained patiently. That doesn't make it any less sacrilegious than it is though, Uzumaki Naruto, which of course is the real problem. Sandame-sama was the most beloved of all the Kazekage. He was recognized as the most benevolent and also as the strongest. The people would not be happy if they heard about this. Baki retorted. Baki is a very tall man. He has 2 distinctive, red markings on the right side of his face, the only visible part of his head, with the rest being covered by his turban-like headgear and by a sheet hanging from it on the left side of his face. He dons the standard attire of a Suna nin, complete with a forehead protector and flak jacket. The people do not have more of a say about what happens to his corpse than the grandchildren of the man. They have no say in the matter. This is a family matter. Naruto counter-argued. Why are you hell-bent on this, Naruto? Gaara asked curiously, eliciting a deathly silence in the room as everyone tensed up when the Kazekage himself finally spoke up. To protect Suna, and to protect you. Without the intention to disrespect Suna, but you are the only S-ranked ninja in this village, compared to say, Konoha, which has me, to Yuya-chan, Fu-chan, Jiraiya-sensei, Hokage-sama, and possible one or two others. Naruto said gravely. This all means that an Akatsuki two-man cell is stronger than the whole of Suna combined. However, if Kankuro can master the powers of what is recognized as the strongest Kazekage ever, then all of a sudden Suna has two S-ranked ninja. The strength of your village will be almost double just by that alone. Sunagakur cannot afford to lose you, and if it did lose you, it would still need a new Kazekage. Who would replace you right now as things stand? Naruto asked rhetorically. Quote, you make a compelling argument, Uzumaki Naruto. I will be the first to admit that Suna was left in a very vulnerable state when Lord Kazekage was captured. I would have risen to the position of Kazekage, but just thinking about the strength and skill of Gaara-sama and his father, I would be no match for them. I know I'm not weak, not by any means, but I also know my limits. Kankuro, if he could master Sandaime-sama's power, that truly would be a game changer. Baki said, applying pure logic to the situation. What about you, Lady Chiyo? Are you still of the same mind as before? Gaara asked curiously. I don't know. I loved and respected Sandaime-sama more than anything in the world. Not being able to protect him or even find out what happened to him was one of my greatest regrets. It is even more of a shame and a regret for me to find out that my own grandson was responsible for his death, and even turned him into his own personal ninja tool. Chiyo trailed off with a pained tone of voice. But, if something good and positive can come out of all this, then, I won't get in the way. Naruto-chan said it earlier, Sandaime-sama is your grandfather, and on top of that you are the Kazekage. No one has more say in this matter than you, and to a lesser but also significant extent, your brother and sister. I will support you no matter what you decide. Lady Chiyo said sincerely. It's the least I can do to atone for the suffering both I and my grandson have caused for your family and the village as a whole. Chiyo thought. So, Kazekage-sama, Kankuro, what say you? Naruto asked quickly, not wanting to give the two brothers too much time in case they ended up talking themselves out of the situation. Kankuro, you have my blessing, as a direct descendant of Sandaime-sama, and as your Kazekage. However, you also have a choice in the matter, as it will be you who has to use and maintain the puppet corpse of your grandfather. So decide, now. Gaara said calmly. Damn that Naruto. It's not like I don't understand the need to get stronger. No one understands that more than I do. I'm the one that got my whooped by Sasori, damn it. Even worse, I had to find out that the puppets I was so proud of were created by him, and now I am forced to accept that I cannot get stronger and match his level without using another one of his puppets. Kankuro thought furiously. I have a very good idea what you're feeling right now, Kankuro, and therefore a good idea of what you're thinking. However, you're going to have to decide which is more important to you, the safety and security of your pride, or the safety and security of your village and your family. Naruto said with a grave undertone, wanting to make sure that Kankuro understood exactly what the potential ramifications of his actions were. I hate you. Kankuro snapped angrily. Is that a yes? You'll do it then? Naruto asked rhetorically. Yes, I'll do it, asshole. It's not like I have a choice. Kankuro said irritably. Good. Naruto said with satisfaction. What about the other scroll with Sasori's name on it? How does Kazekage-sama explain that one? Assuming it is what I think it is, have you considered asking Chiyo-sama if she is okay with Kankuro using her grandson as one of his prized weapons? He was a criminal, a terrible one at that, but he was still her grandson. Baki asked sagely. True, Sasori Dono was Chiyo-sama's grandson, but remember, he was also the cousin of Kazekage-sama's mother, which makes him his uncle. The same explanation given for Sandaime-sama therefore applies. Besides, Sasori Dono did not have a human body anymore. He turned his entire body bar a small, heart-sized portion of it, into a puppet. The small living flesh he had was destroyed in the battle, what remains is only the puppet. Naruto explained for everyone's benefit, everyone surprised beyond belief by what they just had, not quite able to comprehend at all what the final product looked like, or how it even worked. Could a person really remain alive with 99% of their body gone? Sasori. Chio trailed off, tears falling from her eyes as she lamented the life and the choices of her grandson. Chio-ba-sama, are you okay? If you want his body back No. Kankuro-chan. Keep it. If there is any way that my grandson can atone for his deeds, then I will accept it. If his chosen body is to live on as the shield that protects you, your family, and Sunagaku as a whole, then who am I to get in the way of that? Chio said sternly, even though her heart was breaking into a million pieces at the mere thought of it. Sasori, the death of your parents opened a wound that ran deeper than I could have imagined. I thought I could fill that gaping wound inside of you, but I couldn't do it. You wanted to be immortal and not end up like your parents who died in war, that is why you turned yourself into a puppet, isn't it? Chio thought mournfully. Well, anyway, Kankuro, you should know. Sasori designed himself to be controlled from within the puppet. You might have to make some adjustments to his body in order to use him in a more traditional way of puppeteering. I know it's a sore topic, and it's probably something you're not looking forward to, but Yuya healed you completely. I expect you to start training tomorrow morning, and I expect you to spend the afternoons making the necessary modifications to Sasori. Naruto said with authority. Why are you talking like my sensei, Tem? Did you and Baki sensei swap bodies anytime recently? Kankuro asked angrily. Because for the next 2 weeks, I'll be the sensei of the Sabaku siblings. Tamari-chan and the rest of Team Yamato should arrive tomorrow. I'll be training Kazekage-sama how to master his Jinchuriki abilities, and I may make some modifications to his seal if need be. I'll help Tamari-chan to further enhance her wind style. After all, I am a supreme master of wind style ninjutsu. Naruto retorted, causing surprise to everyone at the fact that Naruto had just taken it upon himself to declare Lord Kazekage of all people to be his student. And what about me, huh? You may be a wind style and Jinchuriki master or whatever, but you don't know anything about Kugutsu. Kankuro said pridefully. True, I don't know much about Kugutsu. But I'm the only one who fought Sasori when he was going all out. Also, since I'm the only one thus far who has defeated an Akatsuki member, I think sparring against me would provide you with good combat experience, don't you think? Naruto retorted. Kankuro stunned into silence as his mouth kept opening and closing but with no words coming out, eventually looking to his brother to bail him out. It is my order that, for the duration of Uzumaki Naruto's stay in Sunagaku, that all of us, myself included, will do as he says, not without question, but without resistance. Sunagaku will not fall to Akatsuki or anyone else again, and if this is what has to happen for Sunagaku to stand tall, then so be it. Gaara declared with finality, no one daring to question his declaration, not even Chio-ba-sama and Ebisu Oji-sama. Tell me, Uzumaki Naruto, why go through such great lengths for the sake of Kazekage-sama and Sunagaku? I know we are allies, but it's not so long ago that we were at war with one another. Alliances are formed and disbanded all the time. Ninja villages betray each other all the time. Suna's weakness is a market gap that you can exploit for Konoha's benefit. So why go to such great lengths to strengthen a potential enemy? Yura asked curiously, speaking for the first time since he arrived. Yura is a short man with black hair that hangs over his right eye, a goatee and dark eyes. On missions, he wore a standard Suna shinobi attire, including a face guard which covered his cheeks. He is also wearing beige robe on top of his Jonin attire, effectively concealing whether he has any weapons or not under his attire. I'd rather you tell me why you betrayed Sunagaku, your own home village. Naruto asked curiously. What? I don't know what you're, arg. Yura cried as chakra chains burst out of the floor and wrapped around him. I can sense emotions, Yura-san, especially negative emotions. Besides, Sasori Dono gave me his journal that details his memory suppression seals and how he controls his spy network. He also gave me a journal containing the names of all of his spies in Konoha and Sunagaku. Your name happens to be there, on top of the fact that I have been sensing sinister intent from you the whole time I have been in the same room as you. So please, explain yourself. Naruto said with a cold and unfeeling tone, a tone that promised no mercy whatsoever for the traitor, who suddenly found himself wishing he was dead than going through whatever hell the Kazekage and the Kyuubi Jinchuriki were about to put him through. Quote. Nothing. Fine. I'm actually happy about that. I'm going to enjoy making you squeal.